across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
There you are. Good afternoon and welcome to Drive Time right here on Talk. Stand by for 3 powerhouse hours of news, views and topical debate. I'm your host, Kevin O'Sullivan, and I'll be with you all the way to 7 o'clock. Get involved, get it off your chest, get on the phone and call me on 0344 499 1000, or you can WhatsApp voice note me on the same number and I promise to play your message out. That's 0344 499 1000. Let's talk. It's good to talk on Talk. It's Tuesday, June the 30th. Here's what's coming up. Are long-suffering Brits really going to buy Andy Burnham's so-called vision for his socialist utopia? Are they really going to get conned by a guy in a T-shirt who thinks changing the Prime Minister's address and building council houses is the answer to all our dreams? No, it seems. A new poll reveals that despite Sunshine Andy's Manchester-obsessed address to the nation yesterday, the fabled Burnham bounce simply isn't happening. Looks like replacing Starmer with King of the North Andy is going to be as popular as the Democrats replacing senile Joe Biden with cackling Kamala Harris. If council houses, Downing Street North, growing postcodes and kumbaya hope in our hearts is all he can come up with, God help us and God help him. If he really thinks the PM living in Wigan is exciting, and he seriously needs to get out a bit more. 0344 499 1000. In other news, you've heard of Coronation Street. Now, welcome to Migrant Street. 21 brand new £250,000 houses on a just-built estate are to be made available to asylum seekers only. About 85 of them. No Brits allowed. Isn't that special? That's a place in Shropshire. So let us know what you think. If you live in Shropshire, particularly interested to hear from you, particularly if you were hoping to get some social housing, hoping to get to the top of some kind of housing list, because now you're not at the top. 85 migrants are. 85 asylum seekers who are going to get brand new, spanking new, just-built, new-built homes in Shropshire. Isn't that special? 0344 499 1000. Meanwhile, Shabana Mahmood says asylum seekers will have to pay back the cost of their accommodation, up to 10,000 quid, before qualifying to stay in the UK. Which, of course, none of them will do, and, of course, they won't be kicked out as a consequence. Fantasy politics from a Home Secretary who apparently believes that the way to solve the migrant crisis is to keep on letting more migrants in. What is wrong with this woman? 0344 499 1000. Also, on today's action-packed show, the Pakistani rape gang monster who raped 30 children who can't be deported after his jail term because of an ancient Commonwealth loophole, which should clearly be ignored because this guy is a clear and present danger to British children. Never mind ancient Commonwealth loopholes. What about the safety of British children? 0344 499 1000. Kick him out. He raped 30 children. He must not be allowed to stay. Don't be ridiculous. 0344 499 1000. Meanwhile, the departing weirdo Keir Starmer continues to spend his last days in Downing Street lying, gaslighting the nation and deluding himself that he hasn't been an ocean-going disaster. His latest act of near treachery is to stymie Burnham with his dismal defence investment plan, which he published and at £15 billion is woefully short of the £28 billion former Defence Secretary John Healey declared was the very minimum required to keep the nation safe. Laughable double act from hell, Starmer and doomed Chancellor Rachel Reeves all but high-fiving each other on the triumph of their failure to protect the nation. What a sick joke they both are. 03444991000. Plus, as jailbirds at Britain's worst prison threaten to kill new inmate Jamie Varley, the animal who adopted baby Preston Davey only to sexually torture the poor kid, is sending sex criminals to Wakefield prison, Britain's covert way of sentencing them to death. A lot of child sex abusers, sex offenders, don't fare too well at Wakefield prison. Lost Profits pedo Ian Watkins and child murderer Kyle Bevan were both killed by fellow inmates last year in the terrifying penitentiary they call Monster Mansion. Varley is on suicide watch, sobbing, refusing to eat and wailing that he wants his life to end. Shouldn't take too long. Do we care? 03444991000. Moving on, the Bishop of York says the BBC should focus more on ethnic diversity. More? And the newish Archbishop of Canterbury says poor asylum seekers shouldn't have to wait so long before being allowed to stay. And these chronically out-of-touch ecclesiastical Guardian readers wonder why Church of England congregation numbers are plummeting. What about those of us who were born and bred here in Britain? Does our state religion care about us at all? Just asking. 03444991000. And finally, after 10 Brits were knocked out on day one of Wimbledon, is it time to admit that we're just not very good at tennis, Andy Murray notwithstanding? 03444991000. All that and so much more. So don't go anywhere. Stick with me right here, right now on Talk, the home of free speech and common sense. Let's spend Tuesday afternoon together. And let's go straight over to my first guest. Always enjoy a Tuesday with a senior fellow at the New Culture Forum, Philip Kiszely. Welcome, Philip.
Hi, Kev. It's great to see you.
You're from the north, aren't you? So you must be filling quids in. It's all about you guys now, isn't it? Let's have a look at this kind of absurd video that the guy in the black T-shirt made yesterday. King Andy, King of the North, soon to be King of the East, the West and the South as well. But he doesn't seem to care about anyone else. It's all about Manchester. Here he is.
I left the north again, I travelled south again. Well, there's a bit of a Smiths lyric there for you, but I'm back in London. After the speech, pleased with how number 10 North has gone down. You know, what it will mean in future is that everybody doesn't have to come down here to have a serious conversation with the government. If you think about it, a North Pole to the South Pole, it'll just make the country feel more balanced. I hope you're excited by it. I'm certainly excited by it. The whole idea is number 10 North is a conduit to get power out into the country, every single part of it, and get growth going everywhere. So yeah, come on everyone, get on board with it, and let's make it happen. Good growth in every postcode, hope in every heart. That's our mission.
God almighty. I mean, as I said in my monologue, you know, I've had 24 hours to reflect on that speech yesterday that was supposed to fill us with hope in our hearts so we could all have bigger postcodes or something. And the Prime Minister's going to move to Wigan and he's going to build more houses, council houses. That's it. As I say, 24 hours. I wasn't impressed yesterday. By the way, I didn't think it was a particularly well-written speech for a kick-off. Also, he's an OK orator, but, you know, Jack the Laddie type, but nothing much. So it wasn't exactly a kind of major event in the world of oratory. It wasn't a Gettysburg Address, to say the least. But I've been thinking about it for the last 24 hours, and the sheer asinine emptiness of it. Yeah. It's just shocking, absolutely shocking. There he is. Oh, there's a Smiths lyric for you. Hope you're excited about the idea of a number 10 of the North. Why? I couldn't care less. Do it in Truro. Do it in Norwich. It doesn't matter, really. But it's quite clear, you know, Britain has one major city going for it, and that's London, renowned throughout the world, the most famous city in the world. Why abrogate that? Why abandon that? When major politicians, world leaders from around the world come to visit, they don't want to go to bloody Wigan. They want to go to 10 Downing Street. Am I right? What is wrong with this guy? Do you know what? As I said in my monologue again, replacing useless Starmer, you know, with black T-shirt guy, football fan, chips and gravy, Andy Burnham, is going to be like the Democrats replacing senile Joe Biden with cackling Kamala Harris. And already it looks as if it's going to have the same kind of effect. In other words, no effect whatsoever. Polls revealing there really is barely no Burnham bounce at all. It's not working already because he's got nothing to say.
Well, I think it's not only that it's not working, it's very old already, and he's not even Prime Minister yet. This kind of northern guy, you know, ordinary person, oh, I'm just doing ordinary things, you know, is just so old hat already. It's going to annoy people. People are fed up with it now. It's really going to annoy people. The key thing is, nobody outside of Manchester cares about Manchester, right? I'm not having to go. It's just that, well, I'm from Manchester, you know, and I know you go to London, it's a different place. The thing is, it's not going to moving up to whatever he calls it, number 10 North, and working from home. He's going to be our first Prime Minister that works from home. There you go. That's a sign of the times, isn't it? What's not going to happen, Kev, is investment isn't going to go up north. Power actually isn't just magically going to go up north, because these things don't work like that. If you kind of invest local governments with so much power, one, it takes them about 3 years to get their heads around the mechanisms. By that time, Prime Minister Andy will just be a vague and slightly unpleasant memory. We'll have moved on by then. He's also, the stuff he's promising to deliver is going to take, 10 years to materialise, if it ever does. We're in catastrophe. We are in dire straits. We need things done now. I think Nigel Farage said that, well, all of this isn't going to stop the boats. All of this isn't going to deal with mass immigration. All of this, I would say as well, isn't going to deal with Islamism. All of those things are key pressing problems that people, you know what, they need to be together. And I say this as a northerner, they need to be in London and they need to be at work, not at home in their pajamas. Okay, they need to be at work and they need to be dealing with the pressing problems, because have a hierarchy of troubles here, and mass immigration and Islamism are right at the centre of the things we need to deal with, and he is not doing that. Just one more point, Kev.
Yeah, go.
You said that, you know, there's nothing there. That is really, really important. And that's one of the things that the Labour Party is actually clinging to. There's nothing controversial. There is just literally nothing there. So they can close down and just worship this guy in this weird kind of cultish way. It's really odd and disconcerting to look at, and really embarrassing as well for this dad figure to be playing at a weekend pop star.
That's true, but it looks as if the polls are revealing that the great British public are not buying into this. They're not being suckered by this. Can I just also say, this is a fairly prosaic point to make, but I think it's worth making. Isn't Andy Burnham with his Downing Street of the North, let's move power north, Manchesterism, I mean, isn't he just replacing London centrism, one kind of prejudice, if you like, with another kind of prejudice? What about the people of the West? What about people who live in Cornwall? What about the people of the East, people who live in Norwich and Norfolk and Suffolk? Those of us who live in the South? Isn't he being prejudiced against us? I'm getting away from you lot. He's only interested in one region, the bloody North. What about the rest of us?
Yeah, and also it's really condescending and insulting to other people. And, you know, Manchester is a very different place to Newcastle. It's an extremely different place to Liverpool, for God's sake, you know, completely different. So it's this, you know, it's almost as if he's saying, oh, you know, you get outside of London and the rest of the country is the north, and it's an homogenous whole, and it's symbolised by Manchester. Nothing could be further from the truth. This is someone who is dealing with a rhetoric that is actually 20-odd years old. He's talking about devolution. It's like going back 10 years, or at least it's like going back to Boris Johnson. There is nothing new here. This person is offering absolutely nothing other than this slightly embarrassing kind of older bloke wearing a t-shirt and trying to be hip. And it's actually really as I said before, it's disconcerting, but it's worrying because we've got a lot of stuff to sort out, and it feels as though the Labour Party are thinking to themselves, oh, phew, thank God, we can rest back on our laurels now because we've got somebody the world doesn't hate. Well, I've got news for them. In about 3 weeks' time, everybody in the country is going to hate him because he is offering nothing.
And by the way, can I just say that I'm an opponent of devolution. I don't like the idea of devolution. I look at Scotland and I look at Wales and think, are they any better since they became devolved countries, basically governing themselves? No. They're one hell of a lot worse. Are most of the cities that have mayors better than when they were, if you like, governed by the central government and not by an in situ mayor? No, most of them are worse. So devolution is a kind of communist idea. That's what devolution is. It's a communist idea. Communities governing themselves, making their own rules and regulations that make a country virtually impossible to govern. The more you devolve, the more difficult it is to govern.
Yeah.
So while Labour and Andy Burnham expects us all to go, oh, yes, devolution, we all agree with that because people should have power over their local region. I don't agree with that because it makes the country impossible to govern, it makes us inefficient and it makes us useless.
All right, you're talking about mayors and you're talking about devolution. I'll give you 2 words: Sadiq Khan, OK? Want Sadiq Khans replicated all over the country with that kind of power. Also, this is going to result in huge, enormous, eye-watering waste, OK? I said before that it would take ages for the basic mechanisms of devolved government to and plant themselves. That is going to take such a long time. It's going to cost a fortune. And there's another thing here as well, Kev. If he's going to kind of take his premiership up to Manchester, that's going to cost an absolute fortune in security and just the general mechanics of running the country in an everyday way from a completely...
Shame he can't get the HS2, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. He's down there in an hour, but they can't even do that. I mean, all of this stuff is he's just setting himself up for a fall. And we're all, in a way, we're all just sitting back and waiting for it all to collapse, aren't we? Because everything he says is stupid. Everything he says demonstrates wholeheartedly that he hasn't thought any of it through and he hasn't costed any of it. This is
the cost will be phenomenal. This is just kumbaya, hold hands and sing songs claptrap. And when he has to actually get down to the harsh realities of governing this country, I'm not sure he's got what it takes. This seems extremely worrying, and I think a lot of people are very worried too. There is no Burnham bounce, folks. Are you surprised? 0344 499 1000. Just quickly, before you go, better get this into the show. James Murray, the least charismatic man in the world, he's the Health Secretary, has caved in and given the resident doctors, they used to be called junior doctors, of course, a massive, great pay rise. Many of them will now earn more than £100,000 a year. This is now the system, isn't it? Doctors go on strike and weak health secretaries give them the money they want. This was also presumably to impress the incoming, the workers' Prime Minister, Andy Burnham. He'll like the idea of giving public sector workers big pay rises. Presumably that's what's going on.
Well, I think it is, and I think what we're doing here is going back to the union is king of the 1970s, aren't we? And all of the catastrophe and chaos that will surround that. You've got a new socialist premier. I mean, my God, we had Keir Starmer before, but this idiot is going to be 10 times worse.
He really is.
Yeah, he's going to be 10 times worse. And as you say, they're earning well over 100,000. You know, I think the basic starting from beyond a degree is 40,000. So this is pure greed, and we are, again, I've said it before, but it's absolutely true, Kev. We are heading towards our own winter of discontent, and it will be at the end of this year. Things are going to cave very, very quickly because there's no foundation, there's no substance. This man doesn't know what he's doing. He's surrounded by sycophants who will just say yes to anything because they are flabbergasted that he's got at least some currency. And I'm flabbergasted that he's got at least some currency soon, but it's not going to last long.
Yeah, and by the way, the NHS come the winter will once again realise, oh, nobody told us that more people got sick in the winter. Why didn't we know? They'll do that again. Oh, the pressure on beds. It happens every year. Prepare, just for once in your useless lives. Philip, always a pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you so much. The brilliant Philip Kiszely, their Senior Fellow at the New Culture Forum. Let me know what you think about Andy Burnham. As I say, I must admit I was pretty pessimistic straight after his speech, but looking at it for the past day, it's really depressing just how empty, asinine, airheaded, you know, and ludicrous it is. It's just, there's nothing in it. You know, number 10 North, oh, I'm going to live in Wigan. We're going to devolution, more mayors and all that. And I built some more housing, council houses. That's it. Is that enough for you? It's not enough for me. 03444 991 1000. Next up, we're going to talk about Burnham again in a way. Shabana Mahmood, who in her own fairly weak way was at least pretending to get tough on the migrant crisis, is now softening it all up, is getting very soft on the migrant crisis to please Andy Burnham, who's not a big sovereign borders guy, as you might imagine. He's a socialist, doesn't like borders. He's going to be another Prime Minister who actually secretly wants all of these foreigners to break into the country illegally and secretly wants to let them stay. He'll say different, but that's what he wants. We'll talk about the effect that is having on the migrant crisis, on our asylum seeker situation after these messages. Stay tuned.
Good morning to you. This is Tour the Home of Common Sense with me, Julia Hartley-Brewer. Just breaking news in the last couple of moments. Extraordinary news. Not just that the police have arrived at the Sandringham estate where Prince Andrew, as was now Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, is currently living since being thrown out of the Windsor estate. The police have arrested Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. It's an extraordinary revelation. And certainly what's been contained in the Epstein files was released in the last few weeks. It's his 66th birthday today. What a birthday present that is.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Before we go to our next guest, here's a voice note from Wayne. He wants to talk about number 10 North.
So I'm quite up for Andy's King of the North number 10, but there's only one side issue. That means all these Northern MPs aren't going to get their housing allowance because they don't need a second home, because they don't live very far away. We all have to travel an hour or an hour and a half to work, so why can't they? So yeah, he can have a number 10 at the North, but all them Northern MPs above Milton Keynes, sorry, your housing allowance has been, second home allowance has been taken away.
Well, Wayne, it's a nice thought, but I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that I reckon Northern MPs still will get their second home allowance. Call me cynical, but I suspect that that situation is not going to change just because the Prime Minister plans to live in 10 Coronation Street, Wigan. I think somebody's pointing out, what about his poor neighbours? Who said, Paul sent me this. How can he stay out in his house in Wigan? What about the security in his poor neighbours that won't be able to move freely due to the police presence? Yeah, I used to live down the road from a Northern Ireland secretary. It was that Labour woman, Moland, wasn't it? Everybody loved. Anyway, I lived just down the road, and her house was like Fort Knox, you know, sort of soldiers and coppers everywhere. What about the neighbours? I suppose you're not going to get broken into, but there goes your quiet life. So, Andy, think about your neighbours before you turn 10 Coronation Street into the British HQ. Not very fair on the locals, is it? And what about the people of the East? And the people of the West, and the people of the South? Don't you care about us? You just care about the North? It's outrageous. 0344 499 1000. JKGT, talking about the doctors. He says £100,000 a year for a doctor. That's not enough for you, is it, Kev? You wouldn't get out of bed for that. I certainly would not. My minimum requirement pay-wise is £100,000 a day. Right, let's go over to my next guest. We're going to talk about the migrant crisis and all of its sins with the Reform UK Police and Crime Commissioner for Leicester, Rupert Matthews. Hi, Rupert.
Hiya, don't forget Rutland, Leicestershire and Rutland.
Oh, my God, it's not on there, but Rutland as well, the county that nobody can point to on a map, was named as the nicest place to live in the country over the weekend. I noticed that.
It is beautiful.
Yeah, smallest county, isn't it? But anyway, listen, here's the deal. I think this is because of Andy Burnham. Andy Burnham, well-known lefty, you know, not that keen on sovereign borders, wants to let all the migrants in. They all do. The reason Labour has not solved the migrant crisis, has not stopped the boats, is because in its heart, it doesn't want to. It likes these migrants coming. So Andy Burnham is going to be even worse than Starmer on this front. Now, first of all, let's talk about Migrant Street. You've heard of Coronation Street. This is Migrant Street. It's 21 £250,000 new build homes on an estate just built in Stoke Heath, Shropshire. These houses have been earmarked for 83 migrants. So that's 21 homes for 83 migrants. Never mind the locals. Let's prioritise the poor people of the Middle East and sub-Saharan Africa. What do you make of this? I mean, we're now building new build estates and then apportioning a load of them for migrants and asylum seekers. Well, that is not very ambitious when it comes to a government that's supposed to be thinking about solving this crisis. I mean, just finding them more and more places to live and putting British citizens second place in the housing list, that doesn't solve the crisis. It makes it worse and it infuriates people.
That's right. I think it's absolutely appalling on a number of levels. First of all, the pull factor. The reason why illegal migrants are coming here is they think they're going to be better off here than they are in the countries they're coming from. And giving them top quality, brand new housing is just going to encourage more and more illegal migrants to come here. What's particularly galling about this example, of course, is that the government is using taxpayers' money to outbid taxpayers in the local housing market. So, there'll be people in that village who've got children who are looking to set up, get married, start a home on their own, and they can't afford to, and they're being outbid by their own taxpayers' money that the government is using.
It's just
so, on so many levels, this is a dreadful thing to do. Plus, of course, it's bringing to a village people who are from different cultures, who haven't been given any lessons in how to fit in with British culture, and there's going to be inevitably culture clash, and this is what's driving the breakdown in trust between the public and the government. These houses were supposed to be affordable houses for local people. Instead, they're just being handed to illegal migrants and using taxpayers' money to do it. Absolutely dreadful.
Yeah, all over the front page of The Sun today, as you can see if you're watching on TV, Migrant Street. Let me know what you think about this, folks. Rupert's exactly right. Foreigners who broke into our country illegally are being prioritised on the housing market over British citizens, indigenous British citizens. That's just not fair, is it? Let me know what you think about it. 03444991000. The other thing I wanted to talk to you about, still with the migrant crisis, Rupert, is Shabana Mahmood. She's our Home Secretary. She's actually she's very good at one thing: headline hunting. She's a prize trophy hunter when it comes to headline hunting, and she often hits the spot. This one, she's declared that asylum seekers, in order to qualify for settled status, to be allowed to stay, will have to pay back the cost of their asylum seeker accommodation, be it in hotels, houses of multiple occupation, or army, military camps, air bases, that sort of thing. They'll have to pay back the cost of their accommodation up to £10,000, or they won't qualify to stay. There's two things that are going to happen here. I absolutely 100% guarantee it. No asylum seekers will pay this money, and none of them will be kicked out of the country for not paying. This is pure headline hunting by a publicity-hungry Home Secretary who wants to partly impress, I think, the incoming Prime Minister and partly try to stay on the right side of the British people. But it's absolute claptrap. It's not going to happen. How are they going to afford this £10,000? They're not allowed to work.
Yeah, well, I think there's a number of problems here. First of all, as you say, the only way that they can work is illegally. I was out with our police here in Leicester a few weeks ago, stopping the illegal e-bikes and e-scooters. Largely, of course, these were people delivering food for takeaway joints. And I think about a third of them were people who were illegal immigrants. They were working illegally. So this is never going to happen. The only way they're going to pay back the money is if they're working. They've got to be working in legal jobs, but they don't declare it. They're not going to be paying income tax. They're not going to be paying national insurance because they work illegally. And that means this is never going to happen. It's a great headline, like you say. I'm sure she's very pleased reading the newspaper headlines over her breakfast this morning. But it isn't going to happen because these people are not working legally. They're working in the black economy. And so...
Or Rupert, they're not working at all. They just don't have the money. They're not going to pay this, and we won't kick them out when they don't pay it. That is a fact. That's what's going to happen. Yeah. This is pure fantasy politics. Last thing I want to ask you, this is shocking. Migrants who used the European Convention on Human Rights last year to be able to stay in Britain, they cited their ECHR rights, right to a family life and all that. There were 34,400 people who would have been kicked out if it wasn't for the ECHR. Those people, every single one of them, will cost us £141,000 per year. So for their lifetime, the number of migrants who were allowed to stay in Britain last year purely due to the ECHR will cost us, British taxpayers, £4.9 billion. We got to leave the ECHR. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is a fantasy that when I'm speaking to left-wing people who are in favour of migration, they have in their heads that what we're importing to this country is skilled people who are coming to this country to fill the skills gaps that we've got. They're not. The vast majority of them are unskilled labourers who are coming here to work illegally, get as much money as they can, as quickly as they can, and they're really not contributing to us at all, particularly the ones that then sign up for welfare because they're not working legally. Of course, officially, they're not working at all, so they claim welfare as well as working in the black economy, and it ends up draining this country. We've already seen that the government is using taxpayers' money to outbid local people for housing. The black economy is flourishing because these people are being subsidised by social security and claiming benefits. The whole situation is appalling. The only people benefiting from this are the people smugglers. The honest, down-to-earth British workers who are paying their taxes are being taken for a ride. We've got to get out of the European Human Rights Court.
Absolutely. We are trapped in a circle of insanity, an absolute circle of insanity. That's nearly £5 billion only for the migrants last year, just last year, who would have been kicked out of the country if it wasn't for the ECHR. So don't forget, we've got every other year for about the past 10, 15 years to think about. We're talking about 50, 60, 70 billion pounds because of the ECHR. We've got to leave the ECHR and we've got to do it now, but we won't. Rupert, really good. Come on again very soon. That was excellent. Rupert Matthews, Reform UK Police and Crime Commissioner for Leicester. We had him on about a month ago and we liked him. We thought we'd give him another go. He's good, isn't he? Next up, we're going to talk to Samara Gill, our roving reporter, about a shocking case of a convicted Pakistani child rapist, rape gang leader, who can't be deported. He's been to prison, finished his prison term, can't be deported because of an ancient Commonwealth loophole. That's good, isn't it? Ridiculous. He's got to be deported. We'll talk about that next.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Well, listen, we're going to talk about a Pakistani rape gang leader living here, he was the gang leader of a bunch of rapists in Oldham, convicted of raping 30 children, 30, raped 30 kids. He's done a fairly long prison sentence. He's about to be released, but he can't be deported because of an ancient loophole which exempts Commonwealth citizens who arrived here in Britain before 1973. I think we should just ignore that loophole. We've got to get this guy out. He's a serious danger to British children. He cannot be allowed to walk our streets, can he? Surely. Let's talk to Talk's reporter who's done a lot of work in this area. Samara Gill. Welcome, Samara. I mean,
Hi, Kev.
This is shocking, isn't it?
Is it shocking, though? Honestly, it seems like time and time again, the victims get a life sentence and the offender just gets legal arguments from the British legal justice system. It's pretty ridiculous. And I just want to stress that Shabir Ahmed, who is absolutely despicable, the guy in question, the monster in question, he is really one of the first people convicted of these serious crimes, but also he was one of the people that actually taught others how to groom. He was a total ringleader in Oldham. He actually worked ridiculously as a welfare and safeguarding officer in the Oldham Council. So that put him in a very prime position to then abuse people young as 12 above 2 takeaway stores for years. And so he facilitated gangs of men going basically and sexually assaulting girls as young as 12, and it is just horrendous that he cannot be deported. I mean, this is an individual who really should have if it was up to me, it would be the death penalty, but he's one of the worst. He's like a poster child for the grooming gangs, Kev.
Yeah, let's go through it. I mean, when I said this is shocking, I'm saying this is shocking as opposed to surprising. I get where this sort of stuff happens all the time. So this guy, Pakistani-born, Shabir Ahmed, is 73 years old. He was a key figure in the Rochdale child sex gang, as you say, worked for Oldham Council. He's going to be released from prison on Thursday. He has served 40 years' worth of prison sentences, but actually went to jail in 2012 for 30 child rapes during his leader of this paedophile gang. So he's coming out on Thursday, and to reiterate, he cannot be deported because of a loophole in the Immigration Act of 1971, which exempts all Commonwealth citizens who arrived here before 1973 of deportation. He was a former taxi driver, known by his victims as Daddy. He's coming out of Leeds prison. The cops say he'll be heavily monitored, but that doesn't guarantee children's safety. The government have got to do something about this. This man raped 30 children in an organised way with his gang members. He led the gang, as you say. He taught them how to groom and rape children. And we're just going to let him walk the streets for the sake of this country. If this country is going to be even remotely serious about this sort of thing, this guy has to be kicked out. Sod the Immigration Act of 1971. What about the safety of British children?
Absolutely. And he's going to be kept in a very cushy 24-hour facility on the taxpayer expense. They're projecting that it's going to cost thousands of dollars. And, you know, victims in Rotherham and Bradford at the moment have actually been receiving letters from probation officers warning them that a lot of their offenders actually will be released early. So this is an ongoing thing. I think we're going to see more and more of these people. He's probably going to live in conditions that are far better than any of his victims are living in right now, considering all the hurt that he put on them. And you might think, oh, he's getting let out early. Is he some sort of reformed individual? Well, no. I mean, when I was reading the case, Shabir Ahmed, he actually described the judge as a racist in the when he was sentenced.
Of course he did.
So this is someone who thinks it's all down to racism, not the fact that he raped over 30 children.
He raped 30 children. He groomed them. He drugged them. He tortured them. He raped them. And we're not going to deport him because of some weird loophole in an ancient law. If this government had any sense at all, if Shabana Mahmood was quite the brilliant Home Secretary she likes to pretend she is, she would stand up in the Commons and say, I'm changing this law and this guy is getting kicked out of the country. But they probably won't do that because they're too worried about his human rights. It's an absolute disgrace. I want you folks to tell me what you think about this. This monster who raped 30 children gets out of prison on Tuesday and they say, oh, he'll be heavily supervised, but he will be a free man walking the streets of this country. A clear and serious present danger to British children. He's got to go. He's got to go.
He's got to go. I mean, it also said during his trial, he exposed his naked torso in the dock. He threw a clump of chest hair on the floor, saying to one of the victims, you could have seen this, and also ordered, he was ordered to the cells halfway through, and he started swearing at the judge. So this is a vile individual. And you're right about Shabana Mahmood, but for political context here, Andy Burnham said while the Conservative government was in power that they should do everything in their power to deport groomers. Well, it's
Here's
not
your
just
chance. Here's your chance, Andy.
Exactly. Is Andy Burnham going to stick to his word? Is he going to do everything in his power when he comes in to number 10 to deport this guy? Let's see, because it's not all cappuccinos and Oasis up in the north. There are big, big issues going on that he clearly doesn't want to confront. And this is someone who didn't mention immigration once in his speech
Don't
yesterday.
talk to me about that speech again. I'm getting nightmares about it. What an empty load of claptrap. Samara, fantastic stuff. See you later. That's Samara Gill Talks, brilliant reporter. Done a lot of work on the rape gang issue. But this guy, come on. The raper of 30 children is not getting deported. He's not British, he's Pakistani. Send him back to Pakistan. Come on. 03444991000. Next up, we're going to talk about defence or lack thereof. The Prime Minister beating his chest along with the current Chancellor, Rachel Reeves, saying what a great job they've done defending the nation. We needed £28 billion. At minimum, they've given us £15 billion. We're not safe, thanks to them. Extraordinary. We'll talk about that next. Stay tuned.
I'm Mark Dolan. Join me every weekend from 6 a.m. for the stories that matter to you. We talk politics, we talk news, we talk entertainment, we talk about everything that affects your life. There's only one place to start your weekend, the home of common sense. Talk Breakfast on Talk. 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. every Friday, Saturday and Sunday here on the home of common sense.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Let's go straight over to my next guest. We need to talk about defence and defence spending, or lack thereof. Let's talk to Dr Bob Seeley, former Tory MP, of course, and a military expert, author of Total War, a book about new forms of warfare in the 21st century. Welcome, Bob. Before we start, let me treat you to Dan Jarvis, the new Defence Secretary, hailing the Defence Investment Plan as a triumph. Here he goes.
Madam Deputy Speaker, I also want to place on the record my profound thanks to my right honourable friends, the Prime Minister and the Chancellor, for their support and the spirit of goodwill which has guided our negotiations over the past fortnight. They have, for 2 years, demonstrated steadfast commitment to our national security, and our armed forces are today better prepared and better supported as a consequence of that.
Well, Bob, Dan Jarvis is a former soldier, and you know the convention is when former soldiers become politicians, we all have to say, really good man, good guy, great guy. And, respect to Dan Jarvis, a decorated soldier and all that, which is why I'm so surprised that as a former military man, he is going along with this defence investment plan, which is clearly woefully short of what this nation needs. John Healey, his predecessor, quit because he said to Rachel Reeves and Keir Starmer, I need £28 billion just to maintain the basics. The bare minimum I need is £28 billion. And when Rachel said, well, you can have £10 billion, he quit on the phone. He quit there and then. Now, Dan Jarvis is now going, I've got £15 billion, that's brilliant. Thank you to Keir and Rachel. No, £15 billion is not enough. It puts this nation in grave danger. Am I right?
OK, it's certainly 13 billion less than is what everyone says and reckons to be the required sum. So, yes, it's a lot less than it should be, and I think there is going to be long-term and permanent damage to, above all, the Navy. So I think there's some really serious outcomes here. Could the Army, the Navy and the Air Force spend its money better? Yes. Do we need to improve procurement much more? Yes. Are there ways of finding better savings in the procurement world, in the MOD, which has a ridiculous number of civil servants? Yes. But fundamentally, we do need the money. Because defence is much more important than it used to be.
But we have, to be fair to Dan Jarvis, the generous interpretation of what he's doing, and I think it's probably a fair interpretation, is, he's a Labour man. He feels he owes loyalty to his government, and he's trying to do his best to do a good job in a role that's very difficult. But when you hear Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves virtually high-fiving each other about what a great job they've done here, it feels seriously as if we're being gaslighted as a nation. It's almost as if, particularly Starmer, but also Rachel Reeves, they live in an alternative universe to the rest of us.
Yeah, they've certainly said some ridiculous things over their time, and on defence is simply another one. I hear what John Healey said in the House of Commons today. He said it's a good start. And look, I'm not going to defend previous Conservative governments. Back in 2010, Cameron and Osborne, they cut it far too much. Ben Wallace at the end and Boris decided to turn it around. But, there was a decade where actually we should have been slowly ramping up defence as Russia got more and more dangerous. We didn't deter Russia from its first war in Ukraine in 2014. We haven't deterred it, and the Ukrainians weren't able to deter them in 2022 as well. So, there's fault in previous governments. But Healey was very specific. He said this is not enough money to do the job properly. And the Labour chairman of the Defence Committee, to his credit, said much the same thing. So those people in the Labour Party who are honest about this and who are putting the need for the nation before any career advantage are quite blunt that this is not enough. Dan Jarvis, look, he's not going to take the job on, Gavin, and then quit the next week, is he? So he's obviously going to assume that if I can get another billion and a half out, that'll be something. And he's got a good idea of what the military needs because he's served in the military and he's done a punchy job in the parachute regiment.
I mean, Andy Burnham, do you have much faith? He said he will increase spending on defence. Do you have faith that it'll come through with that promise? I mean, I think he's in lockstep with his left-wing backbenchers who prefer to spend all our money on welfare and think that benefits are far more important than defence.
I agree. Look, I couldn't agree with you more. I think that he promised WASPy women lots of money and then said he changed his mind. He said we should go back into the European Union and then said we shouldn't. No doubt he'll say something about grooming gangs and go back on that as well. And that's, that's up in his territory. So that's pretty, close to him, all those terrible events. So the problem is that he's saying one thing and then saying another. I don't doubt that he's a likable guy, but the problem is just, having a slightly, just wearing a T-shirt with your suit does not make you anything other than what he is, which is a professional politician, and who's been a professional politician for the last 20, 30 years. Yeah,
I don't, on a general basis, I don't see... I mean, he's a big man for change. It's the buzzword in politics. I'm going to bring change. How is he going to bring change? He's never known anything except the sort of bubble of politics. He's never known anything else. How can he deliver change?
That is a really good question, and I don't think I've got an answer for you because the problem is that the Labour Party keeps talking about change and keeps on doing the same things. And then people complain that this country is ungovernable. This country is governable provided you do what the people want. And the problem is that the last Conservative government stopped doing what the people want. We talked Conservative but didn't always act it. We've got a government that doesn't talk Conservative and doesn't do what the people want. So until you're dealing with mass immigration, until you're dealing with actually lowering taxes on working families and stop screwing every penny out of them, until you're actually supporting business, until you're supporting defence, you can talk the talk, but it's just not working. And that's the fundamental problem. Nobody in the Labour Party is going to make this country more governable, however, whatever their accent is, and, regardless of whether they wear a T-shirt with their suit, if they're doing the same thing as all their predecessors are going to do. Andy Burnham is not going to make things better. He will just continue with the Starmer era decline because he doesn't see what needs to be done.
Totally agree. I just think things are going to get worse. Bob, really good to talk to you. Thank you for coming on. Dr. Bob Seeley, their former Tory MP and military expert. Our defence spending, come on. By the way, so the NATO conference summit soon, with all the defence spending taken on board, is going to be in Turkey. But apparently you have to call Turkey now Turkey. Turkey, Y-E-Y-E-E. Why? I don't want to call it that. Can I call it what I always called it, Turkey? Can I call it Kiev? Why do we have to call these places by different names now? What do you think? 03444 99 1000. There we are, back in a mo.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Right, for the next 20 minutes or so, by the way, I'm going to put an interesting question to you in about 20, 25 minutes. I'm going to talk to a former prisoner. Now, we've sent this guy, Jamie Varley, the gay monster who adopted poor little baby Preston Davey just to sexually torture the poor kid to death. They put him into the jail they call Monster Mansion, Wakefield Prison, by far and away. It's Category A. It's where we put our worst prisoners. It is the worst, most dangerous, feared prison in Britain. Now, as you know, Lost Prophets pedo Ian Watkins got killed by a fellow inmate there last year. So did a child killer called Carl Bevan. He got killed as well by another inmate. Now, Jamie Varley's in there, and they're all howling they're going to kill him. He was put in there the other day, met with a kind of blood-curdling scream from all the other prisoners, "We're going to get you." And they probably will. He said he wants his life to end the way things are going in Wakefield Prison. Don't think that'll take too long. My question really is this, is sending monsters to Wakefield Prison the British equivalent of the death penalty? When we send someone like Varley to Wakefield, do we sort of quietly know what's going to happen to him? And do we care? We'll talk about that in about 25 minutes' time. And maybe just ask the question, you know, rather than just let other prisoners kill Jamie Varley, why doesn't the state do it humanely, you know, in that thing called the death penalty? Too many monsters are kept alive by us. I don't know why we bother. I'm not a massive fan of the death penalty, but I'm fairly ambivalent about it. And I just think there are cases where, you know, sod philosophy, sod the principle. This person doesn't deserve to be alive, doesn't deserve to have lots of taxpayers' money wasted on him throughout his excuse for a life. All of that in 20 or 25 minutes' time. But first, let's go over to my next guest. He's Graeme Stuart. He's the MP, the Conservative MP for Beverley and Holderness. Welcome, Graeme.
Hello, Kevin. Good to see you.
Always good to have you on the show. Well, I'm sorry about my my geographical ignorance, and indeed my political ignorance, come to think of it. Beverley and Holderness, is that in the north?
It is indeed. It's in the great county of Yorkshire.
Well, there you go. You're the place to be, aren't you? Well, let's have a look at our new professional northerner Prime Minister-to-be, Andy Burnham. Look at this video.
I left the north again, I travelled south again. Well, there's a bit of a Smiths lyric there for you, but I'm back in London. After the speech, pleased with how number 10 North has gone down. You know, what it'll mean in future is that everybody doesn't have to come down here to have a serious conversation with the government. If you think about it, a North Pole to the South Pole, it'll just make the country feel more balanced. I hope you're excited by it. I'm certainly excited by it. The whole idea is number 10 North is a conduit to get power out into the country, every single part of it, and get growth going everywhere. So yeah, come on everyone, get on board with it, and let's make it happen. Good growth in every postcode, hope in every heart. That's our mission. I left.
Hey, up. You know, he wants to govern the country from Wigan. I can imagine, you know, world leaders descending on Heathrow Airport thinking, I'm off to historic 10 Downing Street. Oh, no, you're not. You're going to 10 Coronation Street in Wigan. That'll be good for the nation, won't it? I mean, do we really care where he governs the country from? It seems to me that his principle is it's not how he wrecks the country that matters, it's where he wrecks the country from. Your thoughts on that speech yesterday, Graeme? I'll put my cards on the table. I was stunned by its asinine emptiness. It basically said three things. I'm going to change the address of the Prime Minister. Big deal, who cares? I'm going to devolve the country into a state of utter ungovernability. And I'm going to build more council houses. That's it. I mean, were you as depressed by it as I was?
Yeah, I'm afraid so. I mean, he must have banged his head in the intervening period from when he ceased to be an MP and he's come back again. Because the idea that when you have a parliamentary system like we have of accountability, we struggle to hold these guys to account anyway, that you can move power somewhere else, you can't. The Speaker goes mad if you don't announce everything in Parliament, quite rightly. And this is where power sits. If ministers are accountable to Parliament and they've got to be able to pop up on any emergency matter at short notice and appear in Parliament, then this is where the senior civil servants will be as well. This is where power is exercised. So if he tells you it's going to be exercised somewhere else, he's not telling you the truth. That's point one. So it's literally undeliverable in our system of government unless you shut down Parliament and you move it to Manchester.
Before you go on, though, Graeme, can I just point out that I think what we should be proud of in Britain, among many other things, is our world-famous, renowned capital city. Not ashamed of it. People want to come to London. World leaders want to come to London. The fact that a country is governed from its capital city is not an anomaly, it's normal. So this is just utter asinine nonsense. I'm going up to Wigan to govern the country. Don't be ridiculous.
I think he's a nice bloke, Kevin. I think but he's a bit vapid.
I didn't say he wasn't a nice bloke. I just said he doesn't seem to have an idea in his pretty head.
There's nothing there, and you can move the pieces around. But my constituents in the north of England say to me, they're not asking for us to change the layout of government. They want the government to do what it promised. They want economic growth. They want good jobs. They want public services that work. They want bills they can afford to pay. They want good education and hope for the future. And all this stuff from him, there's nothing there, is there? And the fact that it's undeliverable, and even if it was deliverable, is devolution the answer? Well, we've had it, Kevin. We've done it on a big scale in this country.
Too much, way too much.
The Blair did it. And do you know what we've ended up with in Scotland?
Worse Scotland.
What we got in Scotland is it used to be the strongest education system in the whole of Europe, one of the strongest in the world. It's now a basket case.
Look at Wales.
In Wales, you've got the worst healthcare in the whole country, and it is one of the poorest regions in the whole of Europe, Wales. Well, thank you very much for devolution. So if that is what he's proposing for people in rural East Yorkshire, we'll tell him to get on his bike.
He wants more and more devolution, more and more local mayors, making decisions for local areas. It sounds good, but it actually is communism wrapped up in a different word. Local communities.
It's not actually going to devolve power. I mean, let me give you an example, Kevin.
Well, it won't work. It'll make the country totally inefficient, ungovernable.
It will. I had 150, 170 people turned up boiling hot afternoon last week because they want to build nearly 3,000 acres of solar all around the beautiful villages of Walkington, Skidby, Little Wheaton, just outside Beverley. Just cover it. Now, the people there are not against, unlike you, Kevin, they're not against clean energy, but they're saying the cumulative impact should be measured. We need to make sure that it doesn't take out really good farmland, which is what it is. They need to protect the heritage and they need to listen to local people. Well, 90+%, I've had hundreds replying to my surveys, 90+% say no.
Yeah,
so,
exactly right.
Kevin, I've got a question for you. Here we are devolving power to the north of England, listening to local people. When they say overwhelmingly they don't want this massive industrial power station created on what is agricultural land today, are they going to get listened to? Because forget the Wakefield test, Kevin. This is the Walkington test for Andy Burnham. Is he going to back the people in my constituency who don't want this huge solar plant? Or is he going to back his pal Ed Miliband and the national targets? And I think we both know the answer to that question.
Yes, we do. We certainly do.
The first time we come up with a test, they're going to flunk it and they're going to say, oh yeah, when we said we're going to listen to you, we're going to give power to you, only when you want to do what we want you to do.
Just before we move on, I want to get your take on the new defence investment plan, such as it is. But Kemi Badenoch, your boss, she's sort of coming across as someone who she's getting more and more spicy. I like that. I mean, she's not pulling her punches anymore. And she was brilliant in PMQs last week. Everybody's absolutely knocked out by Kemi Badenoch. But she's now called Ed Miliband. If Andy Burnham does what he's threatening to do and makes Crazy Ed the nut zero lunatic Chancellor of the Exchequer, Kemi Badenoch says that would be a disaster for Britain. I think we can all agree on that. Yep. And she's compared Miliband to a Nigerian military dictator. That's going down like a cup of cold sick at Labour Towers. But it's not
They don't like, Kevin, they don't like criticism. And
they really don't, do they? They really don't. But what are your thoughts on Kemi's thoughts about Ed Miliband, the grim prospect of him becoming Chancellor? Doesn't bear thinking about, does it?
It really doesn't. I mean, Kemi, as you say, she's absolutely comfortable in her own skin in a way that she wasn't even just a year ago. She's hammering it out the park, and she's rated by the public as easily the best leader. So that's pretty good. It's the rest of us who need to catch up with her. But on Ed Miliband, what a nightmare to have that man in charge of the economy of this country. Do you remember when he was the leader of the Labour Party? What a disaster that was, the famous Ed Stone. Well, fancy bringing that back.
I'll tell you, the only thing I'll say about Ed Miliband, you won't hear this very often, this is the only sort of praise I would have for him. He is a politician of strength, even though he knows that everybody hates him for what he's doing, even though he knows he's destroying British industry, destroying our economy with this net zero zealotry. He believes in it, clearly, fundamentally, and he's got the strength to carry on doing this. I mean, his strength of conviction, I think, is to be admired. Unfortunately, he follows suicidal policies. So if he gets in to be Chancellor, he will probably be a very strong-willed, tough-headed kind of Chancellor who won't take any criticism. He'll get on with what he believes is right, and that will send this country straight to hell in a handcart. Kind of worrying.
Yeah, it is. And I mean, that goes back to our devolution conversation. The big issues are, how are you going to pay for everything? What choices are you going to make? What are you going to cut? What do you keep? It doesn't matter where you make that decision. It depends that you make the right decision. And Ed Miliband isn't going to make the right decision. The man who is shutting down the North Sea, even as we speak, losing 1,000 jobs a month. And not, Kevin, I know you're not that bothered about how much we save on emissions, but it actually means we have higher emissions because we have to import it. We don't burn a single drop less oil and gas because we don't produce it here. We bring it in from abroad with higher emissions. That's the legacy of this guy. And actually, to be fair to the union movement, Kevin, you're not always complimentary about Ed Miliband. Well, I'm not always complimentary about the unions. But Gary Smith at the GMB...
No, unions.
Unite now, they know, they can see all their members losing their jobs because of Ed Miliband. So I am hoping and praying that Gary and Sharon and other union voices will be saying to Andy Burnham, we know you love Ed, but this guy is a disaster for our members. Economic growth is supposed to be the #1 promise of this Labour government. And please don't appoint that madman to be in charge of the public finances, because otherwise poor old Kevin on talk is probably going to spontaneously combust.
Yeah, well, you know what I'm like. I will literally explode on air if he becomes Chancellor. People actually send me messages saying, you've got to calm down, take some Valium or something.
I'm worried about your blood pressure.
You're not the only one. Let's deal with, talking of things that might make me explode, let's talk about the Defence Investment Plan. First of all, here's the new Defence Secretary, Dan Jarvis, hailing its virtues in the House of Commons today.
Madam Deputy Speaker, I also want to place on the record my profound thanks to my right honourable friends, the Prime Minister and the Chancellor, for their support and the spirit of goodwill which has guided our negotiations over the past fortnight. They have, for 2 years, demonstrated steadfast commitment to our national security, and our armed forces are today better prepared and better supported as a consequence of that.
Listen, Graeme, Dan Jarvis, good man, served his country, decorated military hero. And I think he's taken on this job out of a sense of loyalty to the party he serves. So I'm not going to criticise him for taking the job. But look, you saw that speech now. John Healey, what was it, 2 weeks ago now, 3 weeks ago, the former Defence Secretary resigned because he made it clear to Rachel Reeves and Keir Starmer, the very minimum I require to keep this country safe, just for the basics, is £28 billion. Dan Jarvis has made do with £15 billion, woefully short. NATO are seriously unimpressed. This is no good at all. The nation is not saved. So, with all due respect to Dan Jarvis, as a Defence Secretary, he is a patsy there to do Starmer's bidding, which is not enough to keep this nation safe. We're in trouble here.
Yeah, well, we don't even know whether the 15 billion can be sustained, do we? Because has Andy Burnham signed us off? I don't know whether he's categorically said yes or no to that, but it's as you say, well, it's barely half what they need as a bare minimum.
Before you go on, Graeme,
under serious threat, and you know the problem remains nothing to do with who leads the country. It doesn't matter who the Chancellor is. The truth is, those 400 plus Labour MPs, they don't want to take any tough decisions. They don't back their leaders who want to do it, and if you don't make some tough choices, then you are going to leave this country defenceless at a time of historic danger.
Yeah.
And that is why socialists always weaken the economy, and in this case, they're also putting our whole country at risk.
Quick word about that. You mentioned how much does Andy Burnham approve of this defence investment plan. I'm hearing he doesn't approve of it at all. He doesn't like it at all. He didn't want Keir Starmer to publish it. Give me a break. Wait till I'm in number 10 Downing Street. Let me have a look at it. Keir Starmer, in his last days in number 10 Downing Street, is behaving like a petulant teenager that didn't get what he wanted. In other words, he wanted to stay in Downing Street, but they've sacked him. He stymied Andy Burnham by refusing to stay there until September. And he said, can you give me a few months to get ready? Starmer, no, I'm going now. You'll have to put up with it, won't you? And he didn't want him to publish the defence investment plan because he wanted to look at it himself, probably to see if he could do better. Starmer rushed it out there to stymie him. He's doing everything he can to screw Burnham up, like a petulant adolescent throwing a strop. It's pathetic, isn't it?
Yeah, well, and of course, most importantly, this is the defence of the nation, and with Putin on the march wherever he can manage it. So, as I say, this announcement today, I think it's still going on in the chamber as we speak, is meaningless because Andy Burnham is where the power has now gone. And if he doesn't want this defence investment plan, then it's not going to last. It's not worth the paper it's written on, at which point we're being, as you say, we're being gaslit by the Prime Minister, the current Prime Minister, who's pretending he's still in power when he isn't.
He's making such a big thing of it, isn't
better
he?
if he was just honest, and if he's not prepared to give time for Andy Burnham to prepare. But look what several years of preparations did for Keir Starmer when he actually won the election, which he did brilliantly, to be fair to him. It was an enormous victory. It turned out they had no idea what to do apart from attack pensioners, attack farmers, attack independently educated children, and the rest of it. It was one disaster after another, one unpopular policy after another, and it's helped means that we've now got an economy which is struggling with unemployment having gone up. Is it every single month since they came to power?
I do believe so. And meanwhile, until Andy takes over, we think on July the 20th, we're dealing with this guy, Keir Starmer, who is just, he's having a tantrum. It's ridiculous. And he's desperate to persuade us he's a man of great talent and that his 2 years, 2-year Keir, have been an unmitigated success. Well, Keir, if that's the case, why is your party sacking you? It's ridiculous. It is so absurd. And now he kids himself he could become the General Secretary of NATO. Having failed to defend Britain, he wants to take his failure on defence onto the international stage. Isn't that special? Graeme, I've got to move on, but it's always good to talk to you. That was great fun. Thank you so much. Graeme Stuart there, MP, Conservative MP for Beverley and Holderness, which I now know is in Yorkshire. Oh, there you are. Right, next up, we're going to talk to prison reform advocate. He's a former prisoner himself, Johnny Gilbert, about Monster Mansion, that's Wakefield Prison, where that monster, Jamie Varley, the gay dad who adopted poor little baby Preston Davy just so he could sexually abuse him to death. That's where Jamie Varley is now. He's sobbing, he's refusing to eat, saying he wants his life to end. Well, if past performance at Wakefield Jail is anything to go by, he should get his wish before very long. They tend to kill. The other inmates tend to kill people like Varley while they're in jail. My question really is sending monsters to Wakefield Jail Britain's equivalent of the death penalty? And also, I guess, why doesn't the state do it itself? Why don't we put people like Jamie Varley to death rather than let some prisoner with some kind of handmade knife him to death or chuck in boiling water all over him? Something strange about all this. We'll talk about that next. Stay where you are.
Get to the calls now, and Kevin is in Basingstoke. Morning, Kevin. Kevin, what do you think of this cycling conversation?
Well, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to...
disagree with me.
Yeah. I mean, there's far more accidents caused by cars than bikes.
Yeah, we're not talking about cars, Kevin. We're talking about bikes.
I know we're talking about bikes, but if we encourage more bikes, then there'll be less accidents. More people...
more people on bikes who are not being controlled by anything.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let's talk about Wakefield Prison. It's known as Britain's worst prison. It's a Category A only. The most dangerous men in the country are incarcerated there. It's nicknamed Monster Mansion. Now, Jamie Varley, that gay animal who adopted baby Preston Davey to sexually abuse him to death, has just been billeted there. He's in quite a state, apparently, sobbing, won't eat, says he wants his life to end. Well, with past experience at Wakefield Jail, his last request, wanting his life to end, should come true fairly soon. He's on suicide watch, by the way, but last year, for example, in Monster Mansion, the Lost Profits paedophile Ian Watkins was murdered by a fellow prisoner, as was child killer Kyle Bevan. I wonder how long Mr Varley is going to survive. Let's talk to a former prisoner, now a prison reform advocate, Johnny Gilbert. Welcome, Johnny.
Hi, Kevin. Thank you very much for the invitation. Nice to see you.
Good to have you on the show. Now, I know you weren't in Wakefield Jail, but Wakefield Jail, you get sent there, you are not in for a nice prison experience. It is a hellhole. It's nicknamed Monster Mansion. And, you know, to be cynical, people like Jamie Varley, this awful man who adopted that poor baby and then sexually abused him to death, are sent there, and you wonder what the motive for sending him there is, because the chances are, when he got there, apparently, last week, apparently, the whole of the jail erupted in this blood-curdling yell, a kind of cry, a howl, we're going to get you, we're going to get you. And they bloody well will. They'll get him. You know, Lost Profits pedo Ian Watkins was murdered last year by a fellow prisoner, as was child killer Kyle Bevan. His life expectancy is not good, is it? He's going to suffer in that jail, isn't he?
He truly is going to suffer. Thankfully, I've had no experience of the Monster Mansion myself, but I went into a Category B prison in central London, and that was pretty grim.
Which one was that?
That was Wandsworth, HMP Wandsworth, very overcruded.
A friend of mine who's a regular jail bird, to be honest with you, he said to me, "Yeah, I've been in." He said, all the jails in London, they're all right. You don't want to go to Wandsworth, no, not Wandsworth.
It was not good. I went there in 2014 and spent several months there. The Category A in London is Belmarsh, so that would be for the various serious offenders, murderers, terrorists, etc. Obviously, HMP Wakefield, as you said, it's been hit with a little bit of controversy for not keeping some of its inmates safe. I'm sure a lot of your viewers and listeners will not worry about that at all. But, you know, kind of prison homicides or prisoner homicides in jail is quite rare. I think up till June 2025, there was only kind of 7 or 8 actual kind of deaths within prison. The irony is, as you say, is that obviously there have been incidents at HMP Wakefield. So for Jamie Varley, he would have gone in, you know, he would be immediately targeted because you have prisoners working with prison officers on the induction wing. So there'll be processing. So although there'll be elements of trying to keep him safe from the other prisoners, that will not be, you know,
the prison officers will not regard that as a top priority, and if they happen to not be looking when Mr Varley falls into some difficulty, they won't be overly concerned. I mean, that basically is the situation. I mean, prison officers are like the rest of us. You know,
they are.
I wouldn't go out of my way to look after Jamie Varley, even if it was my duty.
Well, but they're kind of parents and grandparents themselves, aren't they? So they're going to be. This is the kind of the hideous of offending. So they're going to have absolutely no, you know, kind of sympathy whatsoever. As you've already touched on, he's probably a hugely problematic prisoner, requiring a huge amount of support and services. You know. The irony is that you know, he's got the full life tariff as well, Kevin, hasn't he? So
he's never coming out. I should say, Johnny, that you know, there's a lot of very dangerous men in Wakefield, the most dangerous men in the country, and actually the guy who is considered to be the most dangerous man in the country is a guy called Robert Maudsley. He murdered a child molester in 1974 and has basically been in Wakefield prison ever since. He stabbed and strangled 2 more inmates there in 1978. But he, if you've seen the film The Silence of the Lambs, he is kept, like, in the basement of that prison in a big reinforced glass cell, just like Hannibal Lecter in the movie. He's down there in that. That's the kind of place Wakefield Prison is.
Of course it is, yeah, because it's holding the most dangerous offenders in our society at the moment. You touched on about the Carl Bevan murder. Obviously, they were convicted recently, but it was, I think the prosecution in that case thought, well, they're going to be doing it because 2 of them were on full life tariffs there as well. One of them, I think it was Taylor, he'd already killed a paedophile and a child killer, and kind of probably around 2014, 2015. So he went up from a 28-year sentence to a full life tariff. So, yes, no, I don't think Jamie Varley's going to be sleeping very much.
Yeah, I mean, if you're one of those full life tariff prisoners, in for some heinous murder or something, and you got someone like Jamie Varley there, we all know you can get brownie points from all the other inmates for killing someone like Varley. And if you're that kind of a prisoner, in the words of Bob Dylan, when you got nothing, you've got nothing to lose, right?
No, but you're exactly right. So it's going to be a badge of honour, these sort of murders within that society, within the prison social rank. There's a hierarchy. You would go, murderers would be the most serious, but within that category of offending, you have the most heinous type, which would be the child the murders and the obviously sexual abuses and that sort of. So even within a cluster of murderers, you would have then the likes of Jamie Varley and his husband within that category. Yeah. So they're both going to have an incredibly torrid time. Obviously, you mentioned about the fact he's on suicide watch.
Yeah.
Feeling very sorry for himself, ironically. And I think as a society, we need to ensure that he is kept safe so that he can serve his prison sentence.
Yeah, I mean, I think that ostensibly is what we as a society must do. As a civilised society. But I think the unwritten rule is there is a slight element of sending some of these people to Wakefield because it's a kind of an unofficial death penalty. But let me ask you this, Johnny. What's it like when you went to Wandsworth? What's it like when you first get into a prison?
I'd never been to prison before. I was a solicitor, got involved in this large kind of banking fraud. So I went away in 2014 and it was utterly grim. I can remember just being stripped of everything, just having obviously the prison sort of uniform. Luckily, I got a wing job, but that was cleaning the loos within a few days or a week. I kind of found it really, the homesickness was, I left my wife and my children at home. So they were in South Wales, not London. So I felt very far removed from that. So I always knew I was going to go to jail, and I knew it was going to be tough, but I really didn't know the level of that toughness, really. So it was a real brutal, but it is punishment. And I reflect on it now that, what I did was incredibly wrong. I needed to be punished. I'm not saying that HMP Wandsworth is kind of, a fantastic prison to be at, because it's certainly not.
No.
But no, I think, it's balancing up what our criminal justice system's about. It's about punishing, obviously, but at the same time, not in the case of Jamie Varley, but in the case of other offenders, it's about thinking about rehabilitation and seeing whether or not we can kind of prevent that repeat offending.
Yeah, absolutely. But with the Varleys of this world, and indeed that Lost Prophets guy, Ian Watkins, I think what we're talking about is they get a sentence within a sentence. They are sentenced to prison, but when they get into prison, the other inmates sort of have their own punishment sorted out for them, often fatally. So I don't feel sorry for Jamie Varley, but my God, what a nightmare.
Yeah, I think with the Ian Watkins as well, I read some press reports to say that there was some issue over he dobbed somebody in, or he tried to get somebody kicked off the wing. So he was already would have been targeted.
Yeah.
But then obviously that escalated insofar, he turned into a bit of a snitch or whatever. But no. So he had a 28-year sentence, so that was very fixed. That wasn't a life sentence. So he would have been working up to probably 2/3 of that before being released. I think he went away in 2013, 2014. So he's done 12 years of that now. So
interesting. Listen, Johnny, really good to talk to you. Come on again. That was great.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Johnny Gilbert there, prison reform advocate, former prisoner of Wandsworth Prison. As I say, a friend of mine who, shall we say, is not exactly the world's greatest law-abiding citizen, often goes to jail. And he told me, I said, so what prison's like? He said, they're all right. They're all right. Mind you, you don't want to go to Wandsworth. Don't go to Wandsworth. It's terrible there. It's terrible. I'm thinking, yeah, all right, then I'll try to go to another prison when I get sent to jail. So Wandsworth, very bad. But Wakefield, Monster Mansion, Jamie Varley, the baby killer. I don't think he's going to last long, do you? 03444 991000. Next up, we're going to talk about the Church of England. The Bishop of York says the BBC should concentrate more on ethnicity. Why? Why? What's he saying that for? Meanwhile, the Archbishop of Canterbury, that newish woman, she says it's really cruel to keep asylum seekers waiting so long. This is the Church of England, and they wonder why their congregations are plummeting. Not exactly in touch with the people, are they? That next. Stay tuned.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let's go straight over to my next guest, Gavin Ashendon, former Anglican bishop, ex-chaplain to Queen Elizabeth II, who I believe converted to Catholicism, but he's still the right man for this story. Welcome, Gavin. What I wanted to ask you, the Archbishop of York, the Most Reverend Stephen Cotterill, says that for too long, representation at the BBC has meant presenters with a regional accent. He says that the BBC should focus more on ethnic diversity. Why? Why would he say that?
Well, I think the problem is, if you stop believing in God, you want to exercise some kind of moral improvement in your work. And so very often Church of England clerics turn to politics to do that. And what he's been doing is simply parroting the latest progressive doctrine, which is about multiculturalism. And of all the organisations to chide for being not sufficiently multi-ethnic, the BBC is really the last one.
That's exactly what I said. What, more ethnicity on the BBC? How can we have more?
It's really quite incredible. The problem is that within the Church of England, he has a very poor reputation. And in terms of morality, he oversaw one of his clergy who had molested underage teenagers and left him in place for 8 years, and saying he hadn't the power to do anything about it. And then when safeguarding voices said, look, this is outrageous, what do you think you're doing? He told them to stop being so shouty. So when he goes on to say that that there should be some kind of censorship in terms of where you get your information from, he's really the last person in the world to have the moral credentials to impose censorship on people. And I think it sits very badly. And as for ethnicity rather than region, he's the Archbishop of York, for goodness sake. That's a region, that's an area. The Church of England is divided up into areas. What on earth is he doing, cutting off the branch he's sitting on the tree? It doesn't make any sense, but then he's not known to be very alert.
Meanwhile, Gavin, the newish Archbishop of Canterbury, Dame Sarah Mullally, she has spoken up in defence of the poor asylum seekers and migrants who have to wait so long for their asylum applications to be approved. She says the poor people are trapped in a decade-long game of immigration snakes and ladders. Well, once again, you know, she's entitled to her political opinions, but this is just more. This reminds me of that last guy. You know, since when? When I was a kid, the Church of England used to be called the Tory Party at Prayer. It has now turned into the Guardian reader party at prayer, hasn't it? Full of these sort of asinine, empty, sort of woke leftism that somehow they think is signalling their own virtue. But what has that got to do with running the Church of England? And do Sarah Mullally and the very Reverend Stephen Cottrell, do they think that what they're saying here, do they think that their congregations are in lockstep with them, that they agree with all of this claptrap? Because I got bad news for them. They don't. And do they not realise that this sort of Guardian claptrap they spew is responsible for plummeting congregation numbers in the C of E?
No, they really don't. For the whole of my life, clergy have had a reputation for being politically a long way to the left of the people that they serve. And they don't seem to mind. They're so full of political self-righteousness and confidence that they genuinely believe that if any more people read The Guardian and voted Labour, the churches would be full. But actually, the opposite is the truth. And really, there's no telling them. The thing about being a Christian is you get very excited by the idea of God and the possibility or the conviction that he comes as Christ to set people free from their sins and give them a new life. And therefore, that's what changes people and society. When they lose a sense of the reality of God, they've got to have something to do with their sense of virtue. So they turn to politics. I think that there's a kind of disproportionate relationship between their political interests and their real faith. If they were Christians, they'd be busy telling people about Jesus and the way in which lives can be turned around, rather than lecturing politicians on how to do their social engineering.
Do you know, when I realised, I mean, I'm not, shall we say, a believer, I'm not an attender of the church, although I was christened into the C of E, which, by the way, people seem to forget, is our official state religion. There's no two ways about it. People say, oh, there's so many other faiths now. No, we have one state religion. Maybe the king ought to get in touch with that, since he wants to be the king of all faiths instead of the faith. But this is when I realised that I thought the C of E is finished. It was Justin Welby, the last loser who completely wrecked the church. At one point, he called for this audit of all statues and gravestones within the Church of England remit, churchyards, in churches, cathedrals, in case any of them had any references to slavery or anything like that. And they discovered in this rural churchyard a sort of family gravestone, and it was to these parents of this family who happened to be music hall entertainers, these parents who died, and their act was, as was the way in those days, that, you know, they did Al Jolson, they did blackface to do an Al Jolson act. Justin Welby had that gravestone pulled out.
No.
Yeah, he
Terrible.
did. It's just disgusting, isn't it?
When you said they're the Guardian of Prayer, actually they're a lot further left than that. They're much more like the Green Party of Prayer. They won't let little old ladies pay to have boilers replaced in churches in order to keep warm. They actually refuse to let them do anything to disturb the quest for carbon zero. They've become, well, I mean, it's hard to find the right words, but essentially they're political progressives who are using the church as a kind of Trojan horse to work out the political views that they wouldn't get elected to represent if they tried. So they do it this way.
Meanwhile, their church goes to hell in a handcart. Their fault. Gavin, great to have you on. Please come on again very soon. That was brilliant, wasn't it? That's Gavin Ashendon, former Anglican bishop, ex-chaplain to the Queen Elizabeth II, the late great Queen, and has now converted to the Roman Catholic Church. I think you can begin to see why. I mean, what is happening to the C of E? Any thoughts? You know, well, why is this guy saying there should be more ethnicity on the BBC? What's that got to do with being the Bishop of York? Why is the Archbishop of Canterbury saying these poor asylum seekers, why do they have to wait so long? What has that got to do with running the Church of England? 03444991000. Next up, we'll talk to the Director of Sport at the Sun newspaper, Sean Custis. Lots to talk about with the World Cup last night. Holland and Germany crashing out. Seems kind of wrong, but they've gone. That next. Stick around.
Get to the calls now, and Kevin is in Basingstoke. Morning, Kevin. Kevin, what do you think of this cycling conversation?
Well, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to
disagree with me.
Yeah. I mean, there's far more accidents caused by cars than bikes.
Yeah, we're not talking about cars, Kevin. We're talking about bikes.
I'm never talking about bikes, but if we encourage more bikes, then there'll be less accidents. More people.
More people on bikes who are not being controlled by anything.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Well, it's competition time. In case you hadn't realised, the 2026 World Cup has officially kicked off here at Talk. We are celebrating in style. How do you fancy getting your hands on a massive £26,000 in tax-free cash? Imagine what you could do with all that money. If you could do with a boost to your bank balance this summer, then here are the details on how to enter.
For your chance to win, visit talk.tv/win or text TALK to 83338 by 6 p.m. on the 20th of July 2026. Texts cost £2.50 plus your standard network rate. Or send your name and number by post to Comp 1 PO Box 3190, Colchester CO2 8GP. To arrive by midnight on the 23rd of July 2026. 18 plus, UK residents only. So for your chance to win, text TALK to 83338 now. This is a network promotion. Full T's and C's at talk.tv/win.
Welcome back. Let's go straight over to New York to talk to the Director of Sport at the Sun newspaper, Sean Custis. Welcome, Sean.
Hi, Kevin.
Quite a 24 hours. Whoever thought that both Holland, the Netherlands, and Germany would be out in the first round? What are your thoughts about that, particularly Germany?
Well, Germany, yeah, and they're getting a lot of stick because certain members of their team didn't want to take penalties. When you think of Germany, you think they always win on way. They hadn't lost a penalty shootout in the World Cup, and yet there were so many of their players who asked to take penalties who didn't want to do it. And now hellfire and damnation is coming down upon all of them who didn't want to step up. I was giving Voltemade a bit of stick from my own club, Newcastle, because he's had a terrible second half of the season and then lost all his confidence. And yet he did step up to take one, albeit it was a terrible one, and the rest didn't want to do it. And you might say got their just desserts by losing to a Paraguay team who were buoyed with confidence. Netherlands, not so much of a shock. Morocco are actually ranked higher than them in the world. So
yeah,
you might say the natural order happened there. But there's a lot of criticism in Holland as well of Ronald Koeman, his tactics, the fact they didn't get on the front foot enough. And it's two big beasts now out of the competition. And we must hope that the same does not happen to England tomorrow.
Old Nagelsmann, the German manager, during that shootout when that was over, you saw him in the dugout with his head in his hands. He looked like a man who didn't want to go home. He is getting ripped to shreds in the German press. What do you think he did wrong?
Oh, look, he's been criticised for tactics. He's been criticised for team selection, as lots of managers are. And, of course, he's got some big names who've given him a bit of stick, including Jurgen Klopp on German TV, who questioned why Dennis Undav wasn't starting. He's got his... I mean, he wasn't supported in his squad selection in the first place. He's got a few enemies in German football, has not been universally popular, and he's cotton for it now. And indeed, are most managers who've been knocked out of the World Cup. You saw what happened to the South Korean gentleman when he arrived at 4 a.m. He was getting absolute pelters. Steve Clarke sneaking back into Scotland. It's quite rare for a manager to come back triumphant when you're knocked out in the last 32, albeit I think Japan will probably escape. They can go back with their heads held high because they put up a great performance against Brazil, and Brazil managed to sneak past them. But it was a tremendous effort by Japan. They were one of the dark horses to do well at the World Cup. I think they justified their billing, but Brazil squeaked through in the end.
Yeah, I felt sorry for Japan. Good side. I suppose that's the secret, is it? No nation is going to vilify a team and a manager if they feel they've done their very best and played with pride. I think that Germany and Holland and the Netherlands at times didn't really look as if they were that bothered.
I don't know about that, you know. I think they are bothered. They just didn't play very well. I mean, Holland absolutely spanked Sweden earlier in the competition.
Yeah, that's true.
5-1 winners. Germany 6-7 past Curacao. I know they're small nations, but they looked like they were in the groove, and it just didn't happen this time. I'm always hesitant to say players aren't bothered. I think they are bothered. It just didn't work out for them, whether it be tactics, whether it be them mentally. I don't know, but I always think players do care.
Yeah, if you look, funny enough, if you look at Germany, you always think, oh, Germany. Every time they're in any competition, you go, yeah, fancy Germany, they're going to win, they're contenders. If you look at Germany's World Cup record going back about 10 years to 2018, it's very poor. I think the best they've managed is the quarterfinals. So perhaps we should stop treating them as one of the great footballing nations. And I wonder whether the decline of the national German football team is somehow connected to the general decline of the German nation. Discuss, but I will discuss that in another bit of the show.
Leave that one to you, Kevin.
I knew you wouldn't want to talk about that.
But what same about Brazil, don't we? People talk about, Brazil's still a powerhouse and that. You've got to go back to 2002 for their last World Cup victory. And, they've got 5 World Cups
you're right.
a long time since they won the World Cup. But we still think of them as a powerhouse. We think of England as a powerhouse. When did we last win the World Cup?
Exactly. Yeah, shifting sands. We've got to start thinking about Mexico, clearly Morocco now. Both very strong contenders. Well, let's talk about the big one tomorrow. Very excited to be on air here at Talk. 5 o'clock kickoff. It'll be right in the middle of my show, so I'm expecting record ratings to be watching me. So I might as well sit here swearing because nobody will be watching or listening. But what's your take on it? Any team news? How are we looking?
Just that Jarell Kwanzaa is probably going to miss the match because he turned his ankle in the game against Panama. Tickle's got a bit of a problem there at right back. He's had some difficulties, partly of his own making, because he didn't select necessarily out and out right backs. He called up Trevor Chalobah. We've got John Stones, who could probably play across there, but he hasn't got now an orthodox right back, so he'll have to work that one out. Shouldn't be the biggest problem on earth, really, but Congo will be tough opponents.
I was going to ask you, what do we know about Congo? What can we expect? No doubt they won't be the walkover some people might think.
No, I think they'll be quite tough. I mean, they've got some established players in there. They've got Visser of Newcastle, who hasn't had a great season there, but he did very, very well at Brentford, and he seems to be hitting the straps here in this World Cup. And Bissaka plays for them. Tournezabi plays for them. Well-known players from Premier League, or Championship. So they'll put up a good performance, and it'll be hard. And having seen what Paraguay did to Germany, we have to be wary. It's obviously you have to be wary. Congo haven't been rolled over by anybody so far, so we've got to watch out.
Well, two big nations with reputations for being good penalty takers, Holland and Germany, crashed out in penalty shootouts. We haven't exactly got a golden record ourselves for penalty shootouts here in England. If it goes to penalties, is that a source of concern?
Yeah, it's always a source of concern, but I think we get a bit obsessed about going to penalties. Why don't we make sure we don't go to penalties?
There is that.
Let's try when we're 1-0 up, let's try and get 2-0 up.
There's a thought.
Worry about going to penalties. But instead we get this into our head, it's knockout, we've got to practice penalties. And I think there's a mental thing about that. I think that's where we're going to end up. No, win the game.
What's your next game that will be attending?
I'm off to France, Sweden now, here in New York.
Lovely.
Looking forward to that. I expect quite a few goals, probably mainly for the French, but Sweden have a little bit to offer in attack. So, entertaining game, I think, Kevin.
And you're coming on tomorrow for us at 4:45.
Just before kick-off, yes.
Yeah, looking forward to that, Sean. Just quickly before you go, tell the audience where they can get all the Sun's coverage of the World Cup.
Yeah, you can see it online, in print, our Proper Football Daily Show, Dean Scoggins' Tactics Show. It's all there everywhere. Just stick with the Sun and you'll be fine.
Put the Sun into Google. That'll take you to the paper, or buy the paper. There you go. Sean, great to talk to you. Talk to you tomorrow before kick-off. That's Sean Custis, Director of Sport at the Sun newspaper. Next up, we're going to talk to Nicole Lampert with more big stories of the day. That next. Stay tuned.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Right, got lots of texts coming in. Don't forget, we're going to take your calls a little later in the show, about half an hour or so. 0344 499 1000. Big question, do you give a rat's backside where Andy Burnham governs the country from? He wants to do it from Wigan. I don't care where he does it from, but I think there's this place called 10 Downing Street in our capital city where this country has always been governed from. And I think that maybe Andy Burnham, rather than this childish nonsense like the Downing Street of the North, should get with the programme and be sensible, grow up and just go to 10 Downing Street. Let me know what you think about this asinine nonsense. I've got to come from the North. Lovely. Wigan. It's great. Are you as excited by it as I am? What are you talking about? No, Andy, we're not excited. Of course, we're very excited about every postcode growing. More council houses, more devolution, more mayors, more chaos, more inefficiency, more ungovernability. Yeah, that's all great. That's it. What are you going to do about the migrant crisis? What are you going to do about defence? Are you going to bring any common sense to our nut zero insanity being presided over by your mad best friend, Crazy Ed Miliband? You going to do anything about that? 0344 499 1000. Get on the phone. Let me know what you think. Let's talk. It's good to talk on Talk. Also, in a little while, we'll be talking about Wimbledon. Did you know yesterday it's the first day of Wimbledon? You know, the tennis tournament. 10 Brits, 10 British contenders got knocked out yesterday. Pretty much all Brits were knocked out on day one. Now, notwithstanding the brilliance of Andy Murray, you know, sadly no longer playing, but he was arguably in the whole history of modern tennis, the only player we've ever produced of either sex, male or female, who has contended at the very highest level, was a serious world-class player, one of the top 4 or 5. He's the only one we've ever produced. So, given that 10 Brits went out yesterday, do we have to face the question, or face the reality, that we're just no good at tennis? 70 million people live in this country. We can't produce a decent tennis player. Fewer than 50 million, 48 million or so live in Spain. They churn out the world's greatest players year in, year out. So it's not an American money thing or anything like that. Is it just that British people are constitutionally no good at tennis? Do we have to face that harsh reality? 0344 499 1000. We'll talk about that in a minute. But first, let's talk about some of the big stories of the day with journalist Nicole Lampert. Welcome, Nicole.
Hi, Kevin. Hope you're well.
Hope you are too. Well, first of all, I've been playing this all day. Here's Andy Burnham being very northern.
I left the north again, I travelled south again. Well, there's a bit of a Smiths lyric there for you, but I'm back in London. After the speech, pleased with how number 10 North has gone down. You know, what it will mean in future is that everybody doesn't have to come down here to have a serious conversation with the government. If you think about it, a North Pole to the South Pole, it'll just make the country feel more balanced. I hope you're excited by it. I'm certainly excited by it. The whole idea is number 10 North is a conduit to get power out into the country, every single part of it, and get growth going everywhere. So yeah, come on everyone, get on board with it, and let's make it happen. Good growth in every postcode, hope in every heart. That's our mission.
Before I get your thoughts on that, Nicole, I'm going to put a question out to the audience. My producer Ryan has just suggested this as an idea. I think it's good. Who do you hate the most? Keir Starmer or Andy Burnham? 0344 499 1000. But seriously, Nicole, the speech he made yesterday, the emptiness of it was epic. I hope you're as excited as I am about the idea of a number 10 Downing Street of the North. Why would we be excited by that? Why would we be excited by the idea that this idiot thinks he can govern the country from Wigan when we know that he can't? What is he talking about? It's, I'm going to live in my house in Wigan and I'm going to have more devolution. There'll be more mayors and also there'll be bigger postcodes. Apparently, postcodes are going to grow. And finally, he's going to build some council houses. That's it. I mean, it was hopeless, wasn't it, that speech?
For me, the most chilling thing was actually the fact that it wasn't open to journalists. And this is someone who is being foisted upon us, the King of the North. He wasn't a sitting MP, so he's not even on coming in on the Labour manifesto. Suddenly we are to accept that he is not only the new Prime Minister, the leader of our country, but he's totally upending the way things work and working now. So he's basically the working from home Prime Minister, really. He can't even be asked to get on the train to London. And I say that with you know, I'm married to a Mancunian, so I love Manchester people. I love Manchester very much. It's a great city. But everything is like the core government is in London. And so is he saying that everyone that is now based in London and Downing Street, because Downing Street is not only, of course, a home, but it's also an office, are they all having to go up north just to spend time with the Prime Minister as they make important decisions, as Russia gets closer and more dangerous? You know, our country is in a serious place.
Yeah, and
it doesn't seem like a serious way of doing things.
Absolutely, that's exactly it. It's unserious, this. It's childish, to be honest with you. You know, visiting world leaders, Donald Trump, Macron and the like, when they come to see the British Prime Minister, they don't want to go to Wigan. They want to go to historic Downing Street, where this country has been governed from for centuries. This is stupid. And also, it disrespects one of the greatest things about this great country, its capital city. London is arguably the most famous city on the face of the earth, the birthplace of modern democracy, where the mother of all parliaments is, where so many laws were made, where justice systems were created. And Andy Burnham seems to be kind of ashamed of the idea that Britain is governed from its capital city. Tends to be the system, doesn't it, with countries? They tend to govern from their capital city. They don't say, well, I'm from this place that's 100 miles away and we're going to govern it from my house. I mean, it's absurd.
I mean, I'm kind of for some devolution. I think, you know, there was a big fuss when the BBC, when the BBC kind of decided to move some of its projects to Manchester, and some of the other media companies did the same. Then really they've created a parallel working culture in Manchester, and I think that has been really good for people in the north.
I get that. Yeah, actually, that's a good point. That's a good point.
You don't have to move to London to do well in the television industry anymore. So it's creating new industry. But being a Prime Minister is not an industry. And as you say, Downing Street is the historic place. And really what we're seeing is someone who's coming in. You know, obviously we saw with the Tories, they elected other leaders who hadn't been voted in, and that's our parliamentary system. But, you know, I hark back to the fact that this is someone who's not even, he wasn't an elected MP last month. And now he's coming in and upending the way things are done. And it's absolutely fine if he wants to, you know, wants to do more working from home. But, you know, again, I hark on the fact that our country is in a serious position, and this doesn't seem serious. And fine if he wants to spend more time in Manchester, and fine if he wants to, you know, do the kind of levelling up that Boris Johnson talked about in terms of the North. You know, I do see a big difference between Manchester and London, even though it feels very much like Manchester is massively on the up.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just,
Manchester's not our capital city, and so Wigan certainly isn't. And this kind of, abrogation of London as some kind of centrist, awful place that we mustn't indulge is just ridiculous. It's it's asinine and infantile. It really
absolutely.
is.
And it's that kind of politics of envy that we've seen towards private schools and all of that. And now it's being pushed against all of us Londoners, or really anyone from the south.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's necessarily going to play well. It might play well in some of the northern Red Wall areas, but that's not where the bulk of the country is.
Yeah,
so
I agree. It's just also, I mean, isn't he just replacing one kind of prejudice with another? I mean, it's all very... I hope you're excited by my idea of the number 10 of the North. Well, no, we're not, Andy. And if you want to make such a big thing about it, if you want to act like this is you being very, very, very diverse, geographically correct and all that, well, what about the people of the East and the people of the West and the people of the South? I mean, how do you think the people of Cornwall feel about you saying, it's brilliant, I'm going to be governing from the north? What about them? What about the people of Norfolk and Suffolk? You don't seem to care about them. Isn't he just replacing one prejudice with another? Because he's not talking about the other regions. He's just saying, I will centralise power in a different region, one region, the north. In fact, not even the north, Manchester, basically. He's just replaced one prejudice with another. Yes?
Yeah. But I think also what he's doing is he's not giving us any proper policy ideas. We don't even know who will be his Chancellor of the Exchequer. So really this is quite a stupid talking point in some ways, because we're not talking about the serious stuff about what this new Prime Minister, if it's him, is all about. And because even the Tories, they challenged each other. So there was a leadership contest, at least. And so we had an idea of what the different politicians stood for. We still don't know that about Andy Burnham. So I care less about the fact that he's going to be working from home in Wigan, and more about what is he about? How is he going to change things from what has been a disastrous premiership of Keir Starmer? Like, how is he going to be different? How is he going to make our country better? Because I think we all feel a little bit that things are broken, and just kind of moving headquarters to the north, to Wigan, that's not going to change things. That's not going to make any of us feel any better.
Exactly right. This devolution thing, he seems to see this as something that everyone automatically supports. More devolution, more power to the regions, to towns, to cities, to streets, growth in every postcode. What does that even mean? But devolution, look at Scotland, look at Wales. Since they became devolved countries governing themselves to all intents and purposes, they've become a lot worse. London, governed, if you like, by in a way, after a fashion, by that little fool Sadiq Khan. It's become a worse city under devolution. So has Birmingham, and so on and so forth. I mean, Burnham, they say, he's probably done just about the best job of the mayors, but not particularly good in Manchester either. So devolution, I challenge. I think it's bad for the country. It makes the country ungovernable. The more you divide up power, the less centralised power there is, the more difficult it is to govern.
Yeah, I think there's definitely a lot to be said about that. And certainly I wouldn't want Sadiq Khan to have any more power than he does as a Londoner. I think it's probably easier for someone like Burnham. He can come in as the King of the North, because you're basically in rebellion against the government. You're asking for more money and you're pushing for your area, which works fine to a certain extent. But basically there is always going to be just a finite pot of money. And however powerful you might be as a mayor, you're going to have to work within those parameters eventually. So what we've seen with Wales and in Scotland is worse NHS, worse education system than the United Kingdom as a whole, particularly in Wales. So it doesn't necessarily work, doesn't necessarily mean even that it's good for the local people, let alone the country as a whole.
It's actually, for someone like Andy Burnham, a dyed-in-the-wool serious socialist, it's kind of code for communism. Small communities looking after themselves, being governed by themselves, working for each other, singing Kumbaya, holding hands and singing songs. And if we could just get rid of all these Tories, these evil far-right people, and we could just allow our socialist utopia to unfold under King Andy Burnham, everything's going to be fine and dandy. In your dreams. This is going to be a disaster, isn't it?
I really hope not, but it doesn't bode well, does it, really?
That's one way of putting it.
Yeah. It really annoys me that he wouldn't even have questions yesterday from journalists. It's the first time anyone's going to get a chance to ask him anything about what he's about, and he shut that down. And really, I think if it had been a Tory, the media, the left-wing media, would have been up in arms. That this is the first chance that people get to chat to him, and he's not open to questions. And then I saw that he actually banned sketch writers as well.
Did he?
That worries me. Yeah.
That seriously worries me as well. It's socialists. That's what they're like. They don't like the media. They think the media is to be controlled. Yeah. And appearances and journalists are to be managed. They are to work to rules and regulations that work for the Labour government. Look at what Lisa Nandy, the Culture Secretary, is proposing, that all newspapers will be forced to sign up to the state regulator, Ipsos, which so far newspapers said, no, we don't want to be regulated by the state. She's suggesting that newspapers are going to be forced to sign up to Ipsos. That is a diktat from a place like North Korea. That isn't British. Newspapers are private enterprise, and they should have the right to say what the hell they want to do in terms of regulation, not be forced by a left-wing government to kowtow to their policies.
Well, I might disagree with you a bit there, Kevin, in that, I mean, obviously you and I remember the age of the press complaints regulator, where all the newspapers
they had me on speed dial.
Yeah. And then Leveson kind of ruined that. They closed it down. And then there were and then the government tried to push the Leveson idea of the state regulator. And the newspaper industry as a whole decided to set up Ipso, except for certain newspapers didn't sign up to Ipso, including The Guardian, which completely self-regulates. So perhaps there does need to be some sort of regulation, but
not
it needs
forced.
to be.
No, I don't accept it. We should have a government forcing media companies to sign up to their regulations.
Definitely not their regulator. It needs
that's
to
sinister. That is sinister.
Yeah, it needs to be kept apart from the government, because otherwise that is a form of state control, and that is extremely concerning.
Which is exactly what people like Andy Burnham and Lisa Nandy want.
They want to control us.
They want state control of the media, like communist countries, like dictatorships, so that they get the press that they want.
I mean, I think it's interesting that he did that video, because this is he's obviously wants to become a PM where he's talking directly to the people, which again is about controlling the message. And it does worry me that that's what he's going to be trying to do more, controlling his message, closing off press, and yeah, that is extremely worrying, because that is kind of
if I know the British
socialist
yeah, I agree. If I know the British press, Andy's going to end up regretting this attitude, because they'll get him. They'll get him for this. So you can't control. You and I know that. Yeah, all these governments, all these politicians that try and control the press. Yeah, it's like trying to hold a piece of jelly. Yeah. It's not going to work. So look out, Andy. We're coming to get you. I am. Nicole, great to have you on the show as always. Thanks for joining me. That's Nicole Lampert, journalist there. Next up, we're going to talk to Mark Littlewood. He's the director of Popular Conservatives and big sports fan, massive football fan, even though he supports Southampton. And we're going to talk to him about Wimbledon. And the fact that 10 Brits got knocked out on day one. 10! Virtually every single British contender lost their opening games on the opening day of Wimbledon yesterday. It's pathetic, isn't it? Is it true that, as The Guardian suggests, or not The Guardian, wouldn't be them, would it? As The Telegraph suggests this morning that we as a nation have got to start facing up to the fact that it may just be that we're no bloody good at tennis as a nation. Is that what it is? We'll talk about that next. 0344 499 1000. Wimbledon next. Stay tuned.
Let's get to the calls now. And Kevin is in Basingstoke. Morning, Kevin. Kevin, what do you think of this cycling conversation?
Well, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to...
Disagree with me.
Yeah. I mean, there's far more accidents caused by cars than bikes.
Yeah, we're not talking about cars, Kevin. We're talking about bikes.
I'm never talking about bikes, but if we encourage more bikes, then there'll be less accidents. More people...
yeah, more people on bikes who are not being controlled by anything.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let's go straight over to my next guest. He is the Director of Popular Conservatism, but also a very enthusiastic sports fan, football especially, even though he supports Southampton. But I want to ask him about tennis and maybe a little bit of a World Cup later. Welcome to Mark Littlewood. Mark, let's talk about tennis first. The Telegraph's asking the question today, and I think it's got some validity. Is it time that we as a nation, Britain, stopped beating ourselves up about our poor performances in Wimbledon and indeed around the world at tennis and just admitted that as a nation we're just not very good at tennis? Apart from Andy Murray, he's our only world-class player that we have produced in modern times, the only player to be up there with the top rankings. The rest, never even a look in. Now, yesterday, the reason we're asking this question, yesterday was day one of Wimbledon. 10 Brits got knocked out on the first day of Wimbledon. Yep. I mean, that is frankly pathetic, isn't it? What is going wrong? Why? There are 70 million people in Britain. And we can't produce a single decent tennis player. There are 48 million people in Spain. They churn out world-class players like there's no tomorrow. What is wrong with Britain when it comes to tennis?
OK. Well, let's take this one point at a time, Kev. You're right about yesterday's evisceration. 10 Brits played, 10 Brits lost. If you assume that every tennis match is a 50-50, the chance that all 10 would lose would have been more than 1,000 to 1 against, right?
We should have taken that bet.
Yeah, you should have taken that bet. Extraordinary. I thought there was going to be some breaking news just before I joined you, that Toby Samuel, who's ranked out of the top 1,000, was a break-up in the 5th set against the 15th seed. Wow. But guess what?
He lost.
Guess what?
He lost.
He blew it. Yeah, he blew it. He's just lost in the tiebreak.
Yep.
So it's all gone horribly, horribly wrong. I've got a bit of a theory here. It doesn't explain the anomaly of Andy Murray, but I think it's down to our bad weather, right? That it just simply isn't nice enough weather in Britain that you can play tennis outside for 4, 5, 6, 7 months a year, whereas you can in Spain. So that's my excuse. And that's another reason why we need to get away from carbon net zero and encourage a little bit of warming, right? that would improve our prospects.
There you go. Another reason to get rid of net zero. Yeah. But here's the thing, Mark. You know, a lot of our best players, I mean, I was talking to Andrew Castle yesterday about this, you know, he lost his job as the top Wimbledon presenter this season, fired by the BBC. But we were talking about this. I said, Andrew, you know, he's obviously a former professional tennis player himself. I said, is it the case we're just not very good at tennis as a nation? And he said, he sort of went along with what you're saying. It's not so much the weather. He said, look, if you are a British kid and you're showing promise at tennis, there is only one way for you to get anywhere near world class or have a shot at becoming world class. You have to move to America. Here in Britain, we don't have the facilities, we don't have the culture, we just don't seem to be able to produce good tennis players inherently in our own nation. You have to go to America. So again, it isn't just the weather. There's something culturally wrong with the Lawn Tennis Association and the way we nurture our talented kids.
Yeah, and you know what, Kev? I don't think that this is just about tennis. I think there are weaknesses in our sporting infrastructure across the board.
Yeah.
Of course, for sports which are global and that the Americans take an interest in, their infrastructure is absolutely stunning. So do you remember the great Czech player Ivan Lendl?
Of course.
He moved over to the USA, right? Quite a lot of people would move to the USA for that infrastructure. Navratilova as well. But it does seem to be across the board. Maybe the Lawn Tennis Association have something specific to answer for, but let's look at football as well. You could argue that a bit like Wimbledon, we're great at hosting football tournaments. You know, the Premier League is the best league in the world. But how many English, I underscore English, how many English managers have ever won the Premier League? Do you know, Kev?
You tell me.
0. The last English manager to win the top division in English football was Howard Wilkinson, who won in 1992, the year before it became the Premier League. So, sure, the Lawn Tennis Association might be doing stuff wrong, but it seems to be a problem across the board. We're good at hosting things, not good at winning things. I've no doubt our incoming Prime Minister will have a solution to it, which will probably be to rip up every single tennis court in London SW19 and move the whole lot of them to Manchester.
Oh yeah, of course.
But that will add to our tennis playing ability, as that now seems to be
the Wimbledon of the North. Yeah, the Wimbledon of the North.
The Wimbledon of the North.
The Wigan tennis tournament. That'd be fantastic, wouldn't it? Players coming from all over the world to play on Andy Burnham's doorstep. Amazing. Actually, while I've got you, Mark, I've got to get your take on this. What did you make of Andy's speech yesterday? My basic takeaway of it was a kind of almost an epic feat of asinine emptiness.
Yeah.
Just offering us a new address for the Prime Minister, Wigan. I mean, that's just ridiculous. Who cares anyway?
Yeah.
By the way, we've got a great capital city. It isn't a shame to the nation that, like every country, we govern our city from our capital, London. He also offered us more crazed devolution, which is socialist code for communism. He said he'd build more council houses, big deal, and that postcodes would get bigger or something. He needs to get... Look, you're a political campaigner, you know what I'm talking about. He needs to get some good people around him. As a handy hint to Andy and his team, when you're coming up with a slogan, a catchy slogan that you want people to register in their minds and repeat and repeat and repeat, don't include the word postcode.
Yeah.
It's not a good word, is it? What is it? A growth in every postcode, hope in every heart. Do me a favour. Have you ever heard a worse slogan in your life?
Yeah, ludicrous. I mean, is he trying to sing a song or does he want to work for the Royal Mail? I couldn't work out which it was. It seemed to be both thoughts entered his head in the same sentence. And I'm rather with you, Kev. I think it's a huge load of word salad. But even if you take him literally and seriously, economic growth in every postcode is completely impossible to achieve. There'll be some area in Britain that goes backwards, even if the rest of the country is booming. So that's ludicrous that you could assume every last postcode area will get economic growth. It's a certainty that some areas will suffer whilst even if the rest of the country booms. That's crazy. And the whole devolution thing, look, if this had ever been done well in Britain, I can see the argument that it's better to solve problems locally than to have a Whitehall committee looking into it. But in that case, you've got to cut back on the number of bureaucrats and politicians in Westminster. There was no plan to do that. It was just have more politicians and bureaucrats in the various regions of the United Kingdom. So Andy Burnham's looked at the mess that the country is in, and he's reached the conclusion that government isn't spending enough, there's not enough red tape, there's not enough bureaucracy, there's not enough politicians, and there aren't enough civil servants. Well, if that's the remedy to our ills, we're going to go backwards and fast. So until a politician comes to me and says they've got a serious plan to cut government spending, pretty much everything else is for the birds, because that is the solution we need. And until you get that, you won't get taxes down, and until you get taxes down, you won't get growth really in virtually any postcode area, let alone all of them. So a pretty ropey start. And as you said, Kev, in your previous slot, what I really worry about is everything is going to be stage managed and there isn't going to be any scrutiny, because I think if you sat him down for a 1-hour interview with you or any other broadcaster, he'd fall to pieces. There's no there, is there?
Yeah, and with his obsession with Manchesterism, and he said, he made this video, said, I hope you're as excited as I am about the idea of the Downing Street of the North. Of course we're not excited by that. That's not exciting. It's ridiculous. But his obsession with the North, with Manchester, does he discriminate? Is he discriminatory towards the South, the West and the East? Seems like it. Why not govern from Truro? Why not govern from Norwich? What's this thing about Manchester? What about the rest of the country? Are you being prejudiced, Andy? I think maybe you are.
Yeah, I think that's right. I had a really interesting chat with a former very senior cabinet minister just yesterday, Kev, and he said that he thought the problem here is that politicians, when they rise to the very top, think that if they were successful in some way, however limited in their previous role, they just need to bring those traits to the next one. Yeah. So because Burnham thinks the Mayor of Manchester thing, that shtick went pretty well for me. He just thinks he needs to do the same thing as Prime Minister. It is a totally different job, a much more complicated job. And I think that the sooner he puts his previous career behind him and realises actually the United Kingdom needs to be governed from our capital city of London, the better. But he's just trying to repeat the trick that worked for him pretty well, at least electorally, in Manchester, and I don't think it will wash. If he thinks the British people are out there excited about the fact that he's going to open an office in Wigan, he's got another thing coming. People are more excited about what's going on in Wimbledon and the World Cup by far.
Yeah, maybe Andy should have a crack at Wimbledon. He'd probably do a better job than he will as Prime Minister. Yeah. Mark, really good to talk to you, as always. The brilliant Mark Littlewood there. He's the Director of Popular Conservatism, but we talked of Wimbledon, we talked of the World Cup, and we talked of Andy Burnham being Northern. What else does he do, this guy, apart from be Northern? A little bit of a Smiths lyric there for you there. A little bit of a Smiths lyric. Oh, for God's sake. Come up with something solid, will you? This is nonsense. This is airhead claptrap. Give us something of substance, Andy. Not just all this happy, snappy kumbaya talk. 03444991000. When we come back, we're going to deliver to you a very interesting story about Nigel Farage and a rather nasty death threat to the Reform UK leader. He's been posting about that on social media. We'll bring you the kind of backstory to that from one of our callers. Very interesting. That next. You better stay tuned.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Nigel Farage has been posting on social media a photograph of some graffiti. There it is, calling for his assassination. This was found near a Lidl supermarket in Folkestone, on the front line of the migrant crisis, of course. There's also a call for the Reform UK deputy's, Richard Tice's death as well. Nigel Farage, it says, assassinate Nigel Farage. Assassinate is misspelt, but alongside the image, Nigel Farage wrote, calling for my assassination in Folkestone. This is what we are up against. Now, our next caller, Liam, a friend of mine, he posted this picture. He took this picture and he posted, like Nigel Farage or don't like Nigel Farage, who cares? This graffiti on the wall by Lidl is disgusting. I don't care who you vote for. I am sure we can all agree that graffiti calling for the assassination of Farage and Tice, Tice, by the way, misspelt, T-I-S-E, is wrong on so many levels. So a welcome to Liam Talley from Folkestone. Hi, Liam.
Hello, Kev. How are you?
I'm all right. Good to talk to you, mate. You spotted this graffiti calling for the death of Nigel Farage and Richard Tice. You put it on social media. Nigel Farage has picked up on it. He's put it on his social media and said, this is what we are up against. Well, you've made it clear what you think about this, but, you know, you say that this graffiti is disgusting. So you were wandering by, I don't know if you're on your way to Lidl or not, but you saw this. You took the photo. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, I went for a bit of shopping, and as I came out, I spotted it on the wall, took a picture of it and thought, this is disgusting, and I went onto Folkestone Residents Group and I put it up. I thought, if this is allowed, right, because down here in Folkestone we're getting stickers on lampposts and things saying stand up to racism and refugees are welcome and everything. If this was the exact same graffiti calling for the assassination of, I don't know, Andy Burnham or Keir Starmer or David Lammy or Diane Abbott, it would be front page news. But because it's Nigel Farage, I thought, come on, this is disgusting. And I only found out that Nigel had actually posted the actual picture because I'd just been back from hospital. My girlfriend said, have you seen this? Nigel Farage has put it up. And there was so many hundreds and hundreds of comments underneath it saying, this is AI, this is fake, this is fake. And I'm like, it's not. So I had to basically get in touch with you and say, I'm the guy who took the picture. It is not fake news.
Yeah, and also, you know, if it was AI, if it was a deliberate fabrication, the chances are the spellings would be correct. They got the spelling of assassinate right. They would have got the spelling of Richard Tice right. So I think we can dismiss the AI theory on two levels. First of all, if it was a deliberate fake, it would be correctly spelt. And secondly, you saw it.
Yeah, I did. And the funny thing is, well, it's not funny, really. People on the Folkestone Residents Group were saying, you did it, you're trying to claim credit for it. No, I'm not. I've met Nigel Farage. I'm a Reform supporter, so why would I, you know, do it myself? It's just crazy.
Also, you know, I know you, Liam, and I know you can spell, so that cuts you out of the action, doesn't it, right away? How are things in Folkestone on the front line of the migrant crisis? They've been coming over in their droves the last week or so, haven't they?
Yeah, nearly 800 in the past week or so. But it has gone down. But looking at the weather that we had in the first 6 months of last year compared to this year, the weather down here has been nothing short of like stormy, rains, winds. I mean, the average last year, I think it's 40% down, but last year, just looking at some figures here, it was average of over 35 knots so far in the first six months of this year, compared to between 5 and 20.
Yeah, there's been bad weather, hasn't there? Nevertheless, I think you're doing our migrants down. I think it's been about 2,000 over the last 10 days or so. Huge numbers coming across. So, yep, the migrant crisis, the small boat crossings are back in business, no doubt about it. Now the weather is better. Liam, I've got to move on, but excellent photo. You're right to highlight that. We can't let assassination bids be graffitied all over our wall for our politicians. Nigel Farage is quite right to be angry about that, and you were quite right to bring it to the nation's attention. Thanks very much, mate. Thank you for ringing. Liam in Folkestone there. Nigel Farage, this is what I'm up against. You know, Liam's right, isn't it? You don't get assassinate Andy Burnham, kill Keir Starmer, murder Kemi Badenoch. You never get that, do you? But once you get to reform, that sort of rhetoric does seem to emerge. Something wrong there, don't you think? 03444 991 1000. Let's talk to Karen in Bournemouth. Hello, Karen.
Hi, Kevin. Elsa says, I hope nephew's settling good.
Is Elsa going to bark? She usually does.
She's going to bark? No, she's having a fun.
She will. What would you like to say, Karen?
It's about Shabana Mahmood. She announced how she was a very proud Muslim. I'm beginning to think she's a very proud Islamist. My reasoning being, first of all, she's not banned the Muslim Brotherhood or the other one.
The Iranian Republican Guard Corps, yeah.
Yeah. Also,
but yeah, the
Iranian Revolutionary Guard.
Yeah, I just said that. Yeah. No, she hasn't banned them, no.
No, but this idea of this sponsorship scheme.
It's mad.
What better way to get a whole load of Islamists into the country?
Well, it's not necessarily just Islamists. It's it's a way to get probably more than 10,000 migrants into the country, and Shabana Mahmood doesn't quite get it. The idea is not to let more migrants in; it's to stop them coming in. Do you see what I mean?
You'd think so, wouldn't you? And the other thing
yes, I would think so. Yeah.
Yeah. But the other thing as well, she also announced that at one point that migrants would not be allowed to have new builds.
Oh, right. Well, that's not working out, is it, in Shropshire, where they're about to get 21 new houses worth £250,000 each?
It's like she's totally, she'll talk a lot of stuff, but she's totally working against us.
Yeah, well, I'm not sure what she's about. She's a great one for announcing policies that sound good and then nothing happens. She's a headline hunter. That's all she is. Karen, good call, and Elsa didn't interrupt. There's a first for us. I almost miss her. Give my regards to Elsa. Good to talk to you, Karen. Let me read a few messages before we go to break. Phil says, if Burnham wants a number 10 of the North, how about the Outer Hebrides? Good thought. Here's somebody who I think is tuned into the wrong channel. This is JKGT. The huge defence budget increase is definitely Keir Starmer's legacy. Well done, Keir. You've done something the Conservatives refused to do. What's that? Make the country defenceless. The huge defence budget increase. No, we got £15 billion. We needed a minimum of £28 billion to keep the country safe. That is not a huge defence budget increase. That's a tiny defence budget increase that will not make this nation safe. Simple as that. Here is one from Glyn in Catterick. He says, one thing I'll say, this is to me, hi Kev, one thing I'll say is that you certainly don't need to calm down at all. That's just as well, because it's unlikely. I admire your passion, and it's great TV as well. Top show. Thank you, Glyn. My fury. Great telly. It's true. I don't know if it's great telly, but I am furious. I'm known as Mr. Angry. Why shouldn't we? We get these losers, these people in Westminster, abject losers, useless people, time after time after time after time. You know, Cameron, Theresa May, Boris Johnson, Liz Truss, Rishi Sunak, Keir Starmer, now Andy Burnham. Not a winner among them. Every single one of them useless. You wonder why I get angry. 0344 499 1000. More calls when we come back.
Get to the calls now, and Kevin is in Basingstoke. Morning, Kevin. Kevin, what do you think of this cycling conversation?
Well, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to
disagree with me.
Yeah. I mean, there's far more accidents caused by cars than bikes.
Yeah, we're not talking about cars, Kevin. We're talking about bikes.
I know we're talking about bikes, but if we encourage more bikes, then there'll be less accidents. More people.
More people on bikes who are not being controlled by anything.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Yippee-ki-yay, I'm going to read some more praise of me. Hi, Kev. Great show as always. Love watching you. I am a 51-year-old single nurse who has worked 2 jobs all her life, and I'm still in a small 1-bedroom flat, as that's all I can afford. I would love a garden of my own. I have second-hand furniture and not had a holiday for over 20 years. How do I get a lovely new house, please, like these immigrants? Just shows that obeying the rules and working all your life does not pay. That's it, yippee-ki-yay, that's it. That's what I mean about all of these prime ministers, all of these politicians. They let people like Yippee-ki-yay, a hard-working nurse, down, don't they? People work very hard all their lives, and they see migrants, asylum seekers, foreigners who broke into this country illegally, being put above them on housing lists, being shown priority, favouritism in our legal system, being given leniency in our courts. You know, that's just not fair. I don't want to treat these people who come to our country as second-class citizens at all. All I'm asking for is us to all be treated the same. You're treating them like royalty and us, British people, like second-class citizens. And that, folks, ain't good enough. That's why all these prime ministers, all these governing parties have let us down. That Westminster bubble lot, they are seriously out of touch with the rest of us. Let's talk to Barry in Norwich. Hello, Barry.
Good evening, Kev. I'm right there with the anger with you. Trust me. You know,
it's just so infuriating, isn't it? And now, after this chain of complete loser prime ministers who've ruined the country, flooded it with illegal migrants who are getting better priority treatment than the rest of us, we end up with Andy Burnham, who thinks the answer to all our dreams is a new address for the prime minister in Wigan. Fantastic, isn't it?
Yeah. Just two comments, if that's all right. One on that paedophile scumbag who's being released out of prison from 2012.
Yeah, come on.
Yeah. I don't care about human rights or this right or that right. Do you know what I mean? Right? You forgive them. You forbode them human rights. If you sexually abuse kids on, do you know what I mean? I don't care what colour you are, what religion you are. If you ain't from this country, you need to be put back on the plane and sent back to the country where you came from straight away.
30 children that guy raped.
I honestly, I literally go mad when I hear stuff like that. Do you know what I mean?
It cuts. You're so right, Barry. You know, every now and again you come across a story that cuts to the heart of everything that is wrong with balmy Britain, the mad country modern Britain has become. I don't give a damn about the Immigration Act of 1971. Well, this guy Shabir Ahmed, I don't care that he became a British citizen before 1973. I'd say we take that Commonwealth loophole and we stick it up his rear where the sun don't shine and we deport him. We get him out of this country for the sake of the safety of British children. Outrageous.
Yeah, it's just I've got two daughters, and believe you me, I would end up in the big house if anybody ever touched either of my guns.
Exactly.
I swear to God. And on these houses, right?
Yeah.
Just what is going on? They want to stop the boats. They'll be coming over here on cruise liners shortly. Yeah, right. Yeah. I £250,000 houses. My oldest daughter, who doesn't live very far from me, her and her boyfriend, they got a young daughter. Well, they both work hard. They pay over £1,300 a month on a private rent that they can't get a council place.
Yeah, you know, exactly. No, well, that's because, no doubt, asylum seekers are ahead of them in the queue. Barry, you know, this car of a country is being driven to hell in a handcart by these incompetent politicians who just don't seem to understand the basic concept of fairness. It's just so wrong. Barry, really good phone call. Thank you very much for ringing. Let's talk to Jill in Cornwall. Hello, Jill.
Hi, Kev. How are you?
Well, I don't know. You know, I'm a bit fed up. You know, another loser is about to go into Downing Street, although he's not. He's going into Coronation Street in Wigan.
He should not be allowed. We should have another election. Labour have changed all their policies with Andy Burnham. He's now decided he's going to move London up to Manchester.
Yeah, I don't think we voted for that, did we? Was that in Labour's manifesto? The country will be governed from Wigan?
Exactly. And he should not be allowed to do that until the country have decided whether or not they want to go with the policies that have suddenly appeared because Andy Burnham is possibly going to be the Prime Minister. I'm so sick of them. I find it really difficult to have a say and not swear about it because I'm angry at the fact that I'm so angry at the fact that they're getting away with this and nothing is changing.
Well, you're right. I mean, constitutionally, I think we ought to have a general election because this guy basically said, oh, yeah, that Labour manifesto, well, I'm taking over. Change. There's going to be change. Well, no, we didn't vote for change. The country voted for Labour's manifesto. If you're going to change that, then you've got to go to the country. I don't think he will. Because he knows he'd lose a fair few seats. He might even lose Labour's majority. The Burnham bounce, Jill, you might be pleased to hear, is not happening. So we're not going to get that general election, but it remains a scandal that we're not. Jill, great call. Try to keep calm. You know I do. Good to talk to you as always. Jill in Cornwall. Peter Cardwell is in the studio. And he's in shorts again. I've told you not to wear them.
It's still quite warm.
Does not excuse you wearing those shorts.
It's the sartorial equivalent of a mullet. So the top half with the shirt on is the kind of, business side, the sensible side. Yeah. And the bottom half, which nobody sees, is just,
the unacceptable side of Peter Cardwell. The unacceptable face of Peter Cardwell.
Well, there are many unacceptable faces, especially as I'm so two-faced.
What did you make? We've got plenty of time. What did you make of that speech yesterday? The more I heard it, and I suppose, this guy's a bit up, sunshine guy, happy message.
He's dead northern.
But it was, northern. Oh my God, it was northern.
I know.
But the more I think about it, it was just this, as I just said to Mark Littlewood, this kind of epic feat of asinine emptiness. There was nothing in it.
Well, there's just a lot about how they're going to open a new office, and that's all very nice, but that's more civil servants and more administration. There's very little about what he actually wants to do. He talked about, you know, growth in every postcode, hope in every heart. I mean, how are you going to measure hope in every heart? Well, tell me about your heart. Is there hope in it or not? You know, we've got to check that out. We've got people with big clipboards saying, is there hope in your heart or not?
Growth in every postcard. Does he mean that all of our postcards will get bigger?
Postcodes,
yeah.
Well, we'll get bigger. Yeah, no, I think economic growth is what he's talking about. But who is not for economic growth? Yeah. Show me the politician who says, do you know what? I want the economy to shrink.
You're from the wonderful world of politics, so you'll know about sloganising, coming up with catchy slogans that people will repeat in their own heads all the time. That's the secret. Andy